welcome to Sunday Night with Old Time Radio, 15 December 2024. We begin tonight's broadcast with My Son Jeep. We move then to Planet Man. They're preparing to blast off. You Bet Your Life follows. The secret word is dust. Should I have told you that? Next, we have Bright Star. We move then to Frontier Gentleman. City of the Dead. This is the final episode of City of the Dead. I hope that you've enjoyed it. And then we close the broadcast with something special. Not all will enjoy it, I suppose. I suppose you might call it high culture. But it's a program called Encores from the Bell Telephone Hour. Tonight's episode has Clifford Curzon, who was for his time very popular, very well known, a British gentleman who I believe passed away in 1982, which for me is not that long ago. But I know that those years add up. Maybe that's why we enjoy old-time radio so much. Well, let's get started. Enough of my talk. Let's get started.
In just a moment, enjoy My Son Jeep. First, though, this week a group of your friends reached their 21st birthday. You visit with them each weekday over the station. Of course, we mean the Barbers of one man's family. Yes, for 21 years, you've been sharing the happiness and tribulations of this lovable family circle, and you can continue to enjoy them Monday through Friday. You'll also enjoy your other weekday favorites, Bob Hope, Dave Garraway, The News of the World, and John Cameron Swayze. Now it's My Son Jeep on NBC.
How? This heap big chief running good evening. This is Dr. Robert Allison speaking, sometimes referred to as Jeep's father, and better known recently as Grove Falls' outstanding Indian chief. It was just one of those things, not really anyone's fault, but if you had to put your finger on someone, you could do worse than put it on my young offspring, my little Mr. Fix-It, My Son Jeep.
Yes, it's My Son Jeep, the bright and warm-hearted adventures of the Allison family of Grove Falls, transcribed by the National Broadcasting Company and starring Donald Cook as Doc, with young Martin Houston as irrepressible, unpredictable 10-year-old Jeep Allison.
Some of the nicest moments around our house take place after supper. We all gather in the living room, Mrs. Bixby, our housekeeper, Jeep, Peggy, Barbara Miller, who works for me, but who is like a member of the family. This is when we talk over the events of the day and plan the events for the days coming up. This is also when I usually get no inkling whatsoever of what's in store for me.
By the way, everybody, I'm being installed Friday night.
Huh? You're being what?
Miss Bixby, would you mind telling us what you're talking about?
I'm being installed by the Sisters of Minnehaha. You know, my lodge. I've been elected Minnehaha for 1953.
You mean what's left of 1953?
Well, who's Minnehaha? She was an Indian princess up in Minnesota or someplace. Gosh, you're going to be a princess, Miss Bixby?
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Well, congratulations. Do we call you Your Royal Highness?
Just call me Minnie.
Well, I think it's a great honor.
For the whole family. Congratulations. Yeah, I think it's swell.
The only reason I brought it up is I'm going to need some help with the costumes.
Costumes? How many are you going to wear?
Just one. The other's for Mr. Mooney.
You mean our milkman?
Is he a sister of the Minnehaha?
Oh, mercy alive, no.
What is he then? A brother of Minnehaha?
He ain't no relation at all. But every year when the new Minnehaha gets installed, she has to have a chief for the occasion.
Well, what's he called?
Chief Bottle Washer?
Please, Doctor. He's Chief Running Bear.
Well, how come Mr. Mooney's taking you?
Gotta have somebody. I saw him when he was delivering the milk this morning, and I asked him,
Mrs. Bixby, how could you?
How could I what?
Well, don't you know the woman's not supposed to make the first advances? You're supposed to wait for the man to ask you.
Yeah, well, Peggy, when you get to be my age, you're allowed a few privileges. You don't waste time beating around the bush. You get right to the point.
What's the joke?
Well, I suddenly got the picture of Mr. Mooney clattering up the back steps and Mrs. Bixby saying, "I'll have 3 quarts this morning. And how would you like to be chief running bear?"
Oh, I'm sure Miss Bixby didn't say that.
Nope, I ordered 4 quarts.
You mean you really did jump in and ask him like that? How did he take it?
Well, he balked a little, but when I told him what an honor it was and how all the refreshments was free, he gave in.
Miss Bixby, what does Minnie Ha-Ha do?
Do? Don't do anything, except preside at the meetings. Oh, my land.
Well, what's the matter?
I just remembered, I gotta make a speech.
In Indian?
Oh, of course not. But what'll I say?
Oh, well, that's simple. You just say,
Ugh.
Well, no. You say,
Go on, Doctor.
Well, well, what do you mean, go on? I can't just toss it off. It requires little thought.
Well, between the 5 of us, we certainly ought to be able to make up one speech.
Don't worry. Leave the whole thing to me. I'll write the speech.
There you are, Miss Bixby. Your troubles are over.
Sure, I know all about Indians.
Well, if you think you can do it, Jeep, go ahead. It'll sure take a big load off my mind. Oh, this installation means a lot to me.
Well, it means a lot to all of us. This is a project for the whole family. We've got to make this the greatest installation the Minnie Ha-Has have ever had.
Here, here.
Miss Bixby deserves nothing but the best. Who works harder and does more for other people? Now it's our chance to do something for her.
Well, of course we're going to help Father. Barbara and I are going to work with Mrs. Bixby on the costume.
That's right. And Jeep's going to write the speech.
That's right, and Pop's gonna... Hey, what are you gonna do, Pop?
Well, I'll be available for anything that comes up. Feel perfectly free to call on me at any time.
Well, this is one project you can't possibly get involved in, Father.
Unless you want to help with the sewing.
Oh, so you think I've no use in this project, eh? Well, mark my words, before it's over, you'll probably be begging me to help you.
Please hand me the scissors, Peggy.
Here you are.
Thank you.
You through with that sleeve, Barbara?
Not quite.
Well, as soon as you are, I got the other one basted.
Mrs. Bixby, what's Mr. Mooney like?
Well, land's sake, child, you see him as often as I do.
Well, I mean, what's he like when he's not being a milkman?
Well, he's like most other men his age, kind of set in his ways. I wonder why he never got married.
Maybe nobody asked him.
Maybe. He ain't bad looking. Nice, steady sort of fella.
Mrs. Bixby, are you interested in him?
Me? Mercy, no, child. What gave you that idea?
Well, after all, he's taking you to the installation.
Now, the other way around, I'm taking him.
Now, the ladies' sewing circle hard at work, I see.
Doctor, you're standing in my light.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. What's this piece of cloth?
Honestly, Father, what does it look like?
Well, it looks like half a sarong.
It's Mr. Mooney's costume.
Where's the rest of it?
That's all there is. There isn't any more.
You mean that poor fellow's got to go to the installation dressed in nothing but this half a sarong?
It's not a sarong, Father. It's an Indian loincloth.
Besides, that ain't all of his costume.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
He wears a couple of bracelets, too.
And that's all?
That's all.
Well, won't he be a little conspicuous? Couldn't he wear a few more clothes?
Nope, it's traditional. Whole ceremony is. You see, when Minnie Ha-Ha and her chief enter the hall, everybody forms in 2 lines, and we walk between them up to the throne. And then the 12 handmaidens of Minnie Ha-Ha go into their war dance.
Why?
Because it's traditional. Then they kneel around us in a circle, and I make my speech.
Well, meanwhile, what is Mr. Moody doing, besides shivering?
Nothing.
Chief Running Bear. It's certainly the appropriate name.
Yeah. Did you make up the name to fit the costume or the costume to fit the name?
Neither one, Father. You heard Mrs. Bixby. Everything's traditional.
Mm-hmm. Well, all I know is I wouldn't be caught dead in this costume. What do you wear, Miss Bixby?
Well, this long skirt here, and the moccasins, and the jacket.
Well, it seems to me your partner's getting a dirty deal. You're going to be all dressed up, nice and warm. Poor Mr. Mooney's going to be freezing to death.
Well, Well, Mrs. Bixby, tomorrow's the big night. Are you excited?
Yep, I'm tired, too. Working on those costumes all week wore me out.
Well, now that they're finished, you'll have a chance to relax,
Oh,
won't you?
land's sake, child, I can't relax. There's 8 million things to do in connection with the installation. I'll be on that phone all day tomorrow.
Are you people sure there's nothing I can do to help on this project?
We're sure, Doctor.
Well, everybody but me's been so busy the past 3 days, I'm beginning to feel useless.
Hi, everybody. Listen, I just finished it.
Finished what?
The speech I wrote for Miss Bixby. What's this?
Mr. Mooney's costume.
Is that all he's wearing?
That and 2 bracelets.
Come on, son, let's hear the speech.
Yeah, let's hear it.
How?
What do you mean, how? By reading it to us.
That's the first word, Pop. How?
Oh, excuse me.
How? Heap big mini ha-ha. Glad to be here. Glad to see so many squaws in wigwam. Ugh.
Ugh.
Ugh. Heap big mini ha-ha.
Just a second. What's this big heap business?
That's heap big.
Well, whichever it is, I ain't a big woman.
Golly, Miss Bixby, that's only Indian talk.
Oh, excuse me.
Mini ha-ha smoke pipe of peace with pale face.
Silly, there won't be any pale faces there.
Except Mr. Mooney is.
That doesn't matter. You always say pale face when you talk Indian. Sounds better. Where was I? Oh. Many moons ago, sisters of Minnehaha started lodge. Ugh. Whole tribe happy with lodge. Ugh. Minnehaha happy with lodge. Ugh. Me promise bear meat and plenty buffalo in wigwam when winter come. Ugh. Great spirit smile on sisters. Ugh. Minnehaha smile on sisters. Ugh. Me promise all sisters who pay up wampum on time go happy hunting ground when they die. Ugh. How? Well, how'd you like it? Barbara?
Well, dear, I thought it was very Indian.
What did you think, Peg?
Well, isn't the end kind of morbid? All that talk of dying?
Oh, gosh, no. All Indians want to go to the happy hunting grounds. Miss Bixby's just saying that if they pay up their dues, they'll go.
You know, come to think of it, no Minnehaha's ever made a speech in genuine Indian before.
And how'd you like it, Pop?
I'm very impressed, old boy, but it did seem to me there was one ugh too many.
Think so? Which one?
Well, now, this one right here.
Oh, you've been a real help, honey. The whole family has. Don't know what I'd do without you. I'm all set for the installation. Got my costume, got my speech, and I got Mr. Mooney.
Hi, Mr. Mooney.
Hi, Jeep. Where's Miss Bixby?
Pop made her stay in bed a little longer this morning. Rest up for tonight.
That's right. Big shindig's tonight, isn't it?
Uh-huh. Guess you're looking forward to it, huh?
Sure, all them free eats. Got to admit it, Jeep. I'm a man who likes his food.
You are? How come you're so thin, then?
Well, I never figured that out. I keep eating and eating, nothing happens. It's kind of discouraging, or it would be if I didn't enjoy eating so much.
Anyway, I'll bet you look real good in your costume.
Well, sure, I kind of fancy myself in Indian costume. All them feathers.
You're not wearing any feathers.
No, I guess I wouldn't be with buckskin breeches.
You're not wearing any breeches.
No? Oh, got one of them knee-length jackets instead, hey?
You're not wearing a jacket.
Say, listen, what am I wearing?
A loincloth.
Is that all?
And 2 bracelets.
Now, Jeep, I've been up since the crack of dawn and I ain't in no mood for jokes.
I wasn't joking, Mr. Mooney.
You mean I'm supposed to walk into that hall in front of all them women in nothing but a loincloth?
And 2 bracelets.
I won't do it.
Huh?
No, sir, Elmer Mooney's not going to allow himself to be made the laughing stock of Grove Falls.
Oh, gee. You mean you're not going to go with Miss Bixby tonight?
That's exactly what I mean.
She's going to be real unhappy.
If I wear that there loincloth, I'll be twice as unhappy.
But this means a lot to Miss Bixby.
Can't help it. Gotta get back on my rounds. Friendship is one thing, but making a darn fool of yourself is another.
Golly, why'd I tell him? Poor Miss Bixby. What'll she do? She's got to have a chief. Well, no 2 ways about it. I'll just have to find somebody to take her.
Come in.
Oh,
Mr. Mooney.
Afternoon, Miss Bixby. I just come by.
Of course, you come by to get your costume.
I come by to tell
You
you.
wait right here. I'll go get it for you.
Hold on there. I didn't come by for no costume. I come to tell you I can't go with you tonight.
You can't go.
My brother over in Lakewood was suddenly took sick, and I got to take care of him.
But what am I going to do?
I know it's awful late to let you know, but you'll find somebody else.
Wait a minute, Elmer Mooney. I happen to know you ain't got any brothers.
Did I say brother? I meant my cousin. He has to come over and take care of me.
Take care of you. I thought he was the one who was sick.
Did I say he was sick? I meant me. Yep, I'm the one who's sick.
You don't look sick to me.
The looks are mighty deceiving, Mrs. Bixby.
Yeah, that ain't all that's deceiving. You're as healthy as you've ever been. Even that ain't saying very much. Now, let's have the truth.
Well, if you gotta know, I'm gonna be sick tonight.
Oh, you ain't even making sense, Elmer. How can you tell now you're going to be sick tonight?
I always get a warning in advance. Ain't no use fighting it either. See? There it is.
You realize you're leaving me high and dry, don't you?
Can't help it. Tain't my fault I got this sickness coming on. Uh-oh. It's coming on faster and faster. I gotta get home to bed.
Well, there goes Running Bear. Now what do I do?
Miss Bixby, there's something I have to tell you, and... Gee, what's the matter? You look funny.
Mr. Mooney ain't going to take me to the installation.
Oh, well, that's what I came to tell you.
Oh, of all this silly How'd you find out?
He told me. How'd you find out?
He was just here.
Oh, told him he'd look swell in that costume, but he just wouldn't believe me.
Him and his sickness. Why couldn't he be man enough to tell me the real... Costume? What about the costume?
Well, when I told Mr. Mooney what he was wearing tonight, he got all upset.
Oh, so that's the reason.
Said he'd be the laughing stock of Grove Falls.
But nobody ever objected to the loincloth before.
I even told him about the 2 bracelets. Guess he was expecting to wear more than that.
My own installation. Ruined.
I'm sorry, Miss Bixby. I didn't mean to scare him off.
Oh, of course you didn't, child. Oh, anyway, it's water under the bridge now. Problem is, who am I going to get?
That's what I've been working on. Well, I asked the mailman, and he's married. Went down to the filling station, but Mr. Rogers said he wouldn't get dressed up like an Indian if it paid him.
Well, you tried, honey. You can't do more than that.
Guess not. Is Pop in the office?
Mm-hmm.
Hey! I got an idea. And if it works, you don't have anything to worry about. Pop, could I ask you something?
Naturally. What?
Well, it's a kind of what you call a hypo something question.
Hypothetical?
Yeah, I guess that's it. Well, anyway, if there was a family, there was somebody in it that everybody loved, and she was in trouble, wouldn't they help Miss Bixby out?
You've got me completely confused, as usual. Is this a hypothetical Mrs. Bixby or our Mrs. Bixby?
Hypo.
Uh-huh. And this imaginary person's in trouble?
Uh-huh. Shouldn't everybody do everything they can to help her?
Certainly they should. Everybody in this imaginary family loves her very much. And you can tell her I said so.
Gee, Pop, thanks.
Think nothing of it.
You want to tell Miss Bixby or shall I?
Tell her what?
Well, that you're going to take her to the installation.
What?
Well, didn't you say you would, Pop?
I said no such thing, and you know it.
But, Pop, what's she going to do? Mr. Mooney's not going to go, and she hasn't anybody else.
Well, can't she ask around someplace?
But the party's tonight. It's too late.
What's the matter with Mr. Mooney? Is he sick?
No, he just doesn't want to go.
Why?
You wouldn't be interested in this reason, Pop.
That's where you're wrong. I'm hanging on your every word. What made Mr. Mooney change his mind?
Oh, the loincloth.
Well, no wonder. I don't blame him a bit. And now you come to me, and after beating around the bush for 5 minutes, you ask me to wear it. Oh, no, not me.
But you look so good in it, Pop.
That's your opinion. I don't happen to share it. I refuse to make a spectacle of myself running around in an oversized handkerchief.
But gosh, that's the way the Indians used to dress.
I don't happen to be an Indian.
When we go to the beach, all you wear is a pair of trunks.
The installation is not being held at the beach.
But, Pop, wouldn't you at least try the loincloth on?
The answer is no. Absolutely, definitely, no.
Turn around, Father. I told you had the build for it. You look wonderful.
Well, never mind the soft soap. I look ridiculous, and you know it.
No, you don't, Bob. You look very good. You'll be the hit of the party.
Oh, no, I won't, because I'm not going. I don't know why I let myself be talked into putting this on in the first place, but I'm going straight upstairs and take it off.
Gee, Pop, you can't do that.
Oh, I can't, huh? Watch me.
Oh, but all week, Father, you've been saying that Mrs. Bixby's installation is a family project. And you're the only one who hasn't done anything yet.
Well, maybe so, but this is asking too much.
It seems to me that I heard someone say, before the week's over, you'll be begging me to help. Well, we're begging you.
That's right. Throw my words back at me. It's getting so a man can't open his mouth without...
Without putting his foot in it?
Father, there is no way out. You've got to do this for Mrs. Bixby.
Well, I don't mind taking her, but why can't I wear more clothes?
Because, Father, this costume is traditional.
It's also chilly.
I got an idea, Pop. You know the red flannel underwear you wear when you go ice skating? You can put that on underneath the loincloth.
Well, that's a good suggestion, Bob. It'll keep you warm.
The answer is no. Absolutely, definitely, no.
Turn around, Father. I like the effect better without the red flannels.
Aesthetically speaking, yes. But this way he's a little more dressed.
I know, but he doesn't look much like an Indian chief anymore.
I don't feel like one either. I'm going back upstairs and take off this ridiculous outfit and forget the whole thing.
Oh, but you can't do that, Father. You've promised.
I didn't promise to provide the Sisters of Minnehaha with an evening of laughs. When next you see me, I shall be wearing trousers. I'll probably never take them off again as long as I live.
Pop.
What?
You want Mrs. Bixby's whole evening spoiled?
Well, of course I don't. Oh, all right. Stop making me feel like a heel. I'll go.
And I'm sure you'll have a wonderful time, too.
I'll bet they said the same thing to Joan of Arc as they were tying her to the stake.
Just one thing, though. Now that you're wearing the red flannels, your face looks awfully pale.
I got an idea. We'll make Pop's face up so it matches the red flannels.
The answer is no. Absolutely, definitely, no.
A little more on the forehead, G.
Up here?
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget the back of his neck.
Is he dark enough yet, Barbara?
Well, he's not as red as the flannels yet, but he's getting there.
Hey, what's that trickling down the back of my neck?
I'm sorry, Pop. Got too much water on the sponge, I guess.
Hey, what is this stuff anyway? Red ink?
Oh, honestly, Father.
No, it's the makeup I used when I played Pocahontas' father in the Thanksgiving play.
What do I look like, Barbara? I mean, truthfully.
Oh, interesting.
You can take the towel off now, Pop. I'm through.
I wish I was.
I have to admit it, Jeep. You did a good job.
Yeah, he sure did. Feels like I was wearing a mud pack.
Gee, I was just thinking. Too bad I can't dress up like an Indian and go with you.
You can take my place. You could go as little Chief Get Father in Soup.
Well, I'm ready. How do I look? Oh, my goodness, who's that? Oh, Doctor. Oh, for a second I didn't recognize you.
That's the first ray of hope I've had. Maybe nobody at the installation will recognize me either.
Well, you look wonderful, Mrs. Bixby.
You like it, Barbara?
Very much. You'll be the best-dressed Minnehaha your lodge has ever had.
Gee, Miss Bixby, you look like a real princess.
Oh, do I, Jeep? Oh, Doctor, I can't tell you how grateful I am for your going with me. I know how you hate the idea.
No, I don't. Not at all. I simply feel a trifle self-conscious. After all, I've never gone to a social gathering in my underwear before.
Well, I guess we're all ready to go.
All right. Jeep, will you get my coat?
You can't wear a coat, Pop.
Why not? It's cool outside. I'm not going like this.
Oh, don't worry, Doctor. I got a blanket for you. Here.
Well, you expect me to... all right.
I'll put it around your shoulders, Father.
I'll never forgive that Mr. Mooney, that coward. I have half a mind to find another milkman. One will be a little more cooperative. Well, let's get out of here.
You two have a good time. And don't worry about getting home early. I'll stay with Peggy and Jeep until you get back.
Night, Pop. If anybody wants to know who painted your face, don't forget to tell them it was me.
Well, don't look so unhappy, Father. You'll be the most attractive man in the place.
And the only one.
Is there a back door to this hall we can sneak into?
Well, there is not. We're going up the front steps like everybody else.
Well, I just thought I'd ask.
One thing I forgot to tell you, Doctor. When last year's Minnehaha hands me the wampum belt, that's when I make my speech. Then I hand the wampum belt to you, and you got to make a little speech, too.
No.
Oh, it ain't a real speech, Doctor, just a few words.
No, absolutely, definitely, no.
Did you make the speech last night, Pop?
Yes.
What'd you say?
I don't remember a single word. The whole evening is just one unpleasant memory. Let's talk about something else.
Gee, aren't you even going to tell me about the party?
Well, how can I? It was one long blur. Never felt more ridiculous in my life. People staring at me all night. You know something? Those red flannels itch. The things I go through for this family.
Hey, you didn't wash all the makeup off, Pop. There's still some on your right ear.
I left that there purposely, a reminder to confine my future insanities to the privacy of my own home.
Father, have you seen the paper this morning?
No, why?
Well, they've got a picture of you and Mrs. Bixby on the front page.
Gosh, they have?
Oh, no. Now everybody in town will be laughing at me. Oh, how dare they publicize my disgrace? I'll never live it down. I ought to sue that editor, that knuckle-headed nincompoop.
But it's a very good picture, Father.
Yeah, I'll bet it is. Robert Allison, doctor and part-time Indian chief.
Don't you want to see it, Pop?
I do not.
Very well. I'll cut it out and put it in my scrapbook.
Well, hey, where are you going with the picture? Don't you think I want to see it, too?
But you just said...
Oh, you know how Pop is when he's upset.
Well, it really is a very good picture, Father.
Well, let me see. Yeah. Well...
Gee, it is a good picture. You look terrific, Pop.
Well, it isn't too bad, is it?
And listen to what the paper says about you. Dr. Robert Allison, one of our Fair City's younger medical men, played chief running bear to Mrs. Henrietta Bixby's Minnie Ha-Ha and carried the whole thing off beautifully.
Well...
He looked every inch the Indian brave, the handsomest chief the lodge has managed to snag in 22 years of installations.
Golly, Pop, aren't you proud?
Oh, well, who cares what the newspapers say? Read some more, Peggy.
The traditional chief's costume was augmented for the occasion by another garment which shall remain nameless. Ye editor applauds Dr. Allison's good sense and foresight. He will probably be the first chief who doesn't wind up with a bad case of influenza.
Well, that editor's a bright young fella. I must look him up sometime.
Oh, my goodness, that phone's been ringing ever since we got up this morning.
By the way, Miss Bixby, have you seen the morning paper?
Have I seen it? I just called up and asked him to send over 10 more copies.
Oh, good idea. Leave a couple in the office for the patients.
Can I have one to take to school, Pop?
Well, I don't see why not.
I'll take this one for my scrapbook.
Land's sake, Doctor, you wouldn't believe all the nice things everybody's saying about you.
Really?
Oh, half the lodge has called up already to congratulate me in bringing you and to ask you to the picnic this summer.
Well, I think that could be arranged.
I never saw anybody make such a big hit before. And that speech you thought up on the spur of the moment. Oh, everybody loved it.
What did you say, Father?
Oh, a little of this and that.
Well, what?
Well, I don't remember.
Anyway, Pop, we're sure proud of you.
We certainly are. And there ain't no doubt about it. It was the most successful installation any Minnie Ha-Ha ever had.
Well, that just goes to prove that if you accept a social obligation, don't make a fuss about it. If you go into it with the right attitude and spirit, you're bound to come out all right.
My Son Jeep was created and written by Walter Black and William Mendrick and directed by Dan Sutter. Tonight's cast featured Lynn Allen as Barbara Miller, Joan Laser as Peggy, and Leona Powers as Mrs. Bixby with Cameron Andrews. It introduced young Martin Houston as 10-year-old Jeep. Starring in the role of Doc is one of America's finest actors and most versatile comedians, Donald Cook, currently starring in the Broadway hit, The Moon is Blue. And now, this is Fred Collins inviting you to be with us again next week, same time, same station, for another transcribed visit with radio's #1 family, the Allisons of Grove Falls, and My Son Jeep.
Tonight, it's the Phil Harris Alice Faye Show on NBC.
The Planet Man. This is the fascinating story of Dantro, the Planet Man, troubleshooter for the League of Planets organization, the law enforcement body for peace and justice in the celestial world, whose headquarters and center of operations are situated on the capital of all the planets, Planaria Rex. From Mercury to Pluto, wherever danger threatens the universe, you will find Dantro, the Planet Man, fighting for fair play. In a moment, The Planet Man. You will remember that Billy, Jane, and Pat Darrow were about to take off from Planaria Rex with Dantro, the Planet Man, for Venus. They are starting on a goodwill tour of the members in the League of Planets. Judge Augustus warned Dantro that although Marston's power was destroyed, his collaborators on the planets were still a threat to the Earth people, that they might even resort to violence in their determination to keep Earth from becoming a member of the League. We find our party preparing for their blast-off from the spaceport on Planaria Rex.
In 5 minutes or so, we'll blast off of Venus. Are you excited, Billy?
Little. Listen to him. A little, he says. Well, he's been practically jumping up and down for the last 4 hours.
You've been excited yourself, Phil. Talk about me. I'm afraid we don't know an awful lot about Venus, Dantro.
Well, it isn't exactly Earth, you know. The clouds that shroud the planet are dust.
I thought they were like the ones back home. You know, water vapor.
No, they're dust. As a matter of fact, the surface of the planet is almost covered with dust. The Venusians have evolved a culture that's quite different from any other planet in the League. They even look different, as you know. Their noses, for instance. You've noticed how big they are, that's because of the dust. They have a kind of filter that's part of their bodies that enables them to breathe.
Oh, I wondered about that. And about the extra eyelid they seem to have. It's transparent. I guess that's to protect their eyes from the dust.
Yes, exactly, Pat.
But do they live out in the middle of the dust all the time? Doesn't it get into their food and everything?
Well, one time they did. But for centuries, they've lived under tremendous transparent domes. Their cities are covered by them. We'll be quite comfortable inside them.
Won't we ever go outside?
Oh, yes, but when we do, we'll have to wear respirators to filter out the dust.
I couldn't help laughing when I first saw the Venusian ambassador's big nose. I guess nature knows what she's doing.
They'll have the laugh on us with our respirators.
Well, they're much too polite to laugh. But you're right about nature. You'll find as we travel around that some of the races in the League of Planets will look pretty funny to you. But there's always a good reason for it. They've each adapted to the environment of the place they live. That's why even the people back on your Earth are different.
Isn't it getting close to blast-off time?
Oh, just about, Billy. I want to give the ship a quick check, though, before we go up. That's funny.
What's funny?
I may be just imagining things, but the controls don't feel right to me. Particularly the counter-gravity stabilizer.
Gee, you don't think it's busted, do you? Will it delay our trip?
Not busted, Billy. Broken.
Hey, Wiz, what's the difference? You know what I mean. Will it, Dantro? Will it delay us?
Don't distract him, Billy.
Oh, that's all right. After all, Billy wants to learn. The pilot needs to know his ship.
Sure, you women don't understand these mechanical things. Now, what seems to be the trouble?
Oh, I'm afraid it's a little too technical even for you, Billy. I better call the flight engineer. I checked the entire ship with him myself before, but I'll ask him to go over this counter-gravity stabilizer again. Flight engineer, report to control deck at once.
Flight engineer Mako, sir. What's up?
Well, it's probably nothing, but the controls don't seem to respond quite right.
Well, we checked them together.
Can we give them a quick once-over just for luck?
Well, of course, sir.
Can I help? I'm almost a pilot, you know.
I know. I've been hearing about you. Sure, you can hold these tools and hand them to me as I need them.
How many people are there on Venus, Dantro?
About 1 billion people, Jane.
Any animals?
Oh, of course. And like the Venusians, they've all adapted themselves to the dust. There's another inhabitant of Venus that's almost a legend. Very few of them have ever been seen. There isn't even a picture of one, and most Venusians doubt that they exist.
He sounds mysterious. What are they?
Well, the Venusians call them dusties. They're almost humanoid in appearance from the stories I've heard. No one really knows much about them, but they've been credited with almost magical powers.
Do you believe that?
I'm afraid I don't know what to believe, Jane. I've traveled around the solar system and seen too many unbelievable things to be sure of anything. There's certainly no evidence to support that belief, though. Probably just a sort of legend more than anything else. Oh, any luck, Miko?
Well, nothing wrong so far, son.
Have you checked the stabilizer?
I'm just going over it now. Seems okay. Wait a minute. Billy, hand me that round tube. It can't be.
Trouble?
I'm afraid so. I'm not sure yet, but something isn't the way it should be here.
You better go over it carefully.
Don't worry, sir, I will. Hand me that scanner, Billy.
Can it be serious? I mean, if it didn't work right?
Serious enough to end our trip before we had hardly gotten started. Without the stabilizer, we'd never clear the gravity field of Planaria Rex. It could make us crash if it were badly enough warped.
Jumping sun toads, this is awful.
Did I give you the wrong tool?
No, the tool's all right, but something else is awfully wrong. Will you come over to the engineering maintenance for a moment, sir? I'd like to talk to you.
Can I come?
Oh, you better stay here with the tools, Billy. It's pretty technical anyhow. And I've got to look at some relay charts. I'll explain it to you when I get back. What's the trouble?
Well, I didn't want to tell you in front of the kids and Miss Darrow, so there's no sense worrying them. But that gravity stabilizer is absolutely useless. You wouldn't get 2 miles off Planaria Rex. You'd come down like a meteor.
Well, you could have told me in front of them they're not the kind that get frightened easily.
That's not why I asked you to step out. That equipment is useless. And it's no accident.
Hmm? What do you mean?
It's been tampered with.
Tampered with? Are you sure?
You went over it with me, sir. It was in perfect shape then.
But are you sure it's been deliberately damaged?
The way it is, it couldn't have been an accident. The connections have been switched, and the tube shorted. Whoever did it knew exactly what he was doing. You wouldn't have had a chance of landing without a crash.
You'd better check the rest of the controls. I'll make some excuse to Miss Darrow and the kids. And check it thoroughly.
Don't worry, I'll go over everything with a micro scanner.
There's trouble ahead for the League of Planets group before they even take off on their goodwill trip. Who is behind this sabotage? We'll be back in a moment. So level up. When we left Danville, he was informed by the flight engineer that the proposed interplanetary goodwill spaceship, the Planeteer, had been sabotaged. Now we find Danville talking with Billy, Jane, and Pat in the control cabin, but not letting on to what is really wrong.
Do you think we'll make it this time, Danfro?
Well, I think so, Billy. What happened before was just one of those accidents. It should teach you a good lesson, though. Always check your ship before you take it up. Even the best technicians slip sometimes, and it's your life that's at stake, and sometimes others.
You bet I will. Can I stand here a while you blast off?
Oh, me too. Well, you may be in the way.
Oh, it's all right, Pappy. No trouble at all, and not very complicated.
I keep forgetting how different from the old Constitution these ships are. No dangerous acceleration, no recoil couches. It's almost like going up in an elevator.
There goes the signal to blast off.
Right, Billy. Here we go.
Boy, this ship really travels. Can I take over the controls soon?
Maybe not this trip, Billy. Don't worry, you'll have a lot of chance to be traveling a lot for a while now. We'll be out of these dust clouds in a minute, and then you'll be able to take your first look at Venus.
I've always thought that the clouds were water vapor, like the clouds on Earth.
Well, if they were, Venus would be a lot better off. As it is, they have ways that will seem quite strange to you. Oh, but you'll see it yourself in a little while now. There, now you can see the planet.
Why, it looks like a big desert. Hey, what's that thing down there? It looks like a big bubble.
That's Venusport. I told you their cities were covered with tremendous domes to keep out the dust storms.
But how do we get in?
Well, they have locks like the airlocks on a spaceship. You go through one door, which seals, and then we can go through the second, through to the city itself.
Do they know we're coming?
Well, I've already signaled ahead. You see that directional arrow? If we keep it lined up with the beam, we will come right onto the port.
I see it. It's that round opening.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have to slow down.
There, a second door ahead of us now. What's opening?
The outer door must be closed then. Here we go.
See, the landing field is below us.
Yes, and there's a delegation waiting for us to land. They'll probably make a speech. Yes, this is quite an event for Venus. Not often they have visitors from the other planets.
On behalf of the people of Venus, I welcome you to Venusport. Our planet is yours.
Do you think he means it? Be quiet, Billy. This is a very serious occasion.
As I grasp the hands of each of you from Earth, may it be a symbol of the future unity for the people of Venus and the people of your home planet.
The first leg on the interplanetary goodwill tour has been made without incident, except for the attempted sabotage of the Planeteer at takeoff. Now on the planet Venus, the planet of dust, the Earth people and Danto are to be the most honored guests in many a century. We'll be back in a moment, but first, here is a message the Planet Man wants you to hear. Tune in again for more transcribed thrills and adventures. Rocket millions of light years into space with Danto, the Planet Man. The Planet Man.
Ladies and gentlemen, the secret word
anyone
tonight...
falling asleep during the show will be thrown out.
Ladies and gentlemen, the secret word tonight is dust. D-U-S-T.
Really?
You bet your life! Elgin American, creator of America's most beautiful compacts, smartest cigarette cases, magic action lighters, finest dresser sets, presents Groucho Marx in the Elgin American show, You Bet Your Life. The comedy quiz series produced and transcribed from Hollywood. And here's that sterling Elgin American, the one, the only...
Groucho! He must be a kigme. Oh, that's me, Groucho Marx. Thank you. Well, here I am again with $1,500 for one of our couples here tonight. George, who's first?
We invited some bacteriologists to the show tonight, and just before we went on the air, our studio audience selected Mr. Frank Matuccio, and his partner is Mrs. Idella Manicera, who operates a bird hospital. Folks, meet Groucho Marx.
Welcome, folks, for Elgin American Compacts. And if one of you says the secret word, he wins a 16-millimeter Apollo Sound movie projector that sells for $129.50. It's a common word, something you see every day. Mr. Matuccio?
Yes?
You're the bacteriologist.
I am.
Where are you from? I'll call you Frank, eh?
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica, huh? And married?
Yes.
How long have you been married, Frank?
Oh, about 11 to 12 years.
What is a bacteriologist?
Oh, a bacteriologist is one who studies bacteria.
Well, what's bacteria? The rear door of a cafeteria?
Bacteria is a unicellular structure which exhibits some of the fundamental process of plant protoplasm.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, you know. You mind if I ask you another question?
Not at all.
What is bacteria? The rear door of a cafeteria? Mrs. Manicera.
Yes.
That's an odd name. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm. Is that, what is it, Spanish?
Italian.
Italian. Well, what does it mean in English? Does it have any English significance?
I was so busy getting the man that I didn't think to analyze the name.
Well, Idella, is that your first name?
Yeah,
Idella?
it is. My given name.
Your given name, eh?
Yes.
I guess somebody was glad to get rid of that name. You operate a bird hospital, huh?
That's right.
And you're a bird doctor, I take it.
Yes.
Can you stand on one leg and go to sleep? Well, you're a doctor, sort of. Maybe you can answer a question that's been bothering me for a long time. What is bacteria?
Just exactly what the doctor said.
Everybody seems to know but me, huh? For a bird doctor, you're pretty cagey, Idella. Well, tell me, Louis Pasteur, that's you. How did you meet your wife? Under a microscope? Or,
No. I met my wife at a Eastern hospital. She happened to be the personnel clerk there, and she took down my...
Steady then.
Yeah. What I wanted to say was that she took my application,
Was it a hot application?
No, it was a pretty good application.
Do you have any youngsters, Doc?
No youngsters.
Does anything exciting ever happen around your laboratory?
Oh, not too much. I happened to listen to a baseball game one day, one of the World Series, over a stethoscope.
You listened to it over a stethoscope?
That's right. We couldn't hear the speaker loud enough at the time, so my chief, the pathologist, walked up to his office and came back with the stethoscope and placed it over the speaker of the radio and gave us the play-by-play account of the game from then on. So
I didn't think you'd be able to do that with a stethoscope.
Oh, yes.
Because most of the Brooklyn players didn't have any heart for this World Series. Well, tonight I'm learning quite a lot about birds and bacteria, and now I want you to have the perfect Christmas gift from our sponsor.
For Mrs. Idella Manicera, Elgin American's Beautiful Pearls. An ideal Christmas gift for any woman. They're the finest pearls made by man. I'm sure you'll enjoy them.
Thank you. They'll match everything I have.
And
what about Ducky here?
For Mr. Matuccio, an ideal Christmas gift for a man. Elgin American's popular cigarette case with today's smart leather-like look.
Oh, very nice. Now I can stop bumming cigarettes, I guess.
Now, Idella, what kind of birds do you doctor?
Well, we have all kinds. We have canaries and parakeets and cockatiels and parrots and minor birds.
Minor bird? Is that the bird that looks after the miners? That isn't John L. Lewis, huh? Now, do you ever treat any wild birds?
Yes, we treat wild birds. They're brought to us constantly.
Mm-hmm. What kind?
Well, all kinds. Mockingbirds and blackbirds and larks. Everything.
What do you do for a lark?
Well, we reduce the fractures if that happens to be the case.
You're just an old night owl, that's what you do. You just don't give a hoot, do you?
That's right.
What's the most unusual bird doctoring you've ever tackled?
I once had a pair of penguins brought to me.
You did, huh? I've led a very sheltered life. I've never had a penguin. What was the matter with them? Did they fall off a package of cool?
No, they fell from a cool place into a warm climate, and that gave them pneumonia.
They fell from a cool place into a warm climate?
Into a warm climate.
That's what eventually is going to happen to me, you know. Now tell me, Florence Nightingale, when you were a young girl, a real young girl, I mean, you're still a girl, but did you always dream of someday being a bird doctor?
No.
What did you want to be?
I wanted to be a physician. But when I was a girl, that wasn't being done. My parents threw up their hands in horror.
Mm-hmm.
So
had they swallowed them? What a vulgar mind I have. In just 1 minute, you're going to work together as a team for $1,500. But first, listen to this.
Who said Santa Claus was one man with whiskers? He's every gent giving Elgin American compacts to his gal and sisters.
Lives there a woman with a bedroom to her name who doesn't long for an Elgin American dresser set to glamorize same?
And show me the man who wouldn't strut with a cigarette case and lighter by nobody but Elgin American.
Here's the gift inspirational for women and girls. Those gorgeous, sensational, simulated pearls by Elgin American.
What causes this great Elgin American preference? It's beauty, style,
Perfection with a difference.
And to keep all your Christmas shopping very budget nice, Elgin American Gifts outvalue them all in price.
Yes, Elgin American Gifts are first in fashion, first in value, first in the hearts of every man and woman on your list. So make this the Christmas to outdo them all. Give Elgin American.
Now then, let's see if you're going to be our winning couple and get the chance at the $1,500 question. Fenneman, tell them the rules.
Each of our three couples has $20. They bet as much of that 20 as they want on each of 4 questions. The couple that earns the most money gets a chance at the $1,500 question at the end of the show. Our other 2 couples are in a waiting room off stage, so they don't know what's going on out here.
Here we go. Let's see how high I can build you $20. You selected nicknames for college teams, right?
That's right.
What college team? How many? You have $20. How much do you want to bet?
Well, 10.
10. What college team is known as the Indians?
Stanford.
Stanford is right.
And they're off down the field with $30.
You're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of your $30 will you try?
Well, 20.
20. What college team is known as the Mustangs?
Southern Methodist.
Southern Methodist is on the nose.
And now they have $50.
Here's your third question. How much of the 50 are you going to try?
40.
What college is known as the Vandals? Vandals.
Tennessee? No. Vanderbilt?
No, I'm sorry. It's where the big potatoes come from. It's Idaho.
Oh, Idaho. That's right.
They now have $10.
Now you only have $10, and here's your last chance to beat the other couples. How much of the 10 do you bet?
Oh, we'll bet the works.
You bet the works. What college team is known as the Wolverines?
Michigan.
Michigan is correct.
And they'll wind up with a total of $20.
Thanks and good luck from Elgin American Compacts. Don't wander off now. You can still get the big question, you know.
Groucho, the secret word is still dust. Perhaps the next couple will say it. Just before we went on the air, our studio audience selected a mechanic and a woman driver. And here they are, Mrs. Hilda Mary Buss and Mr. Jack McDonald. Meet Groucho Marx.
Welcome, folks, to the Elgin American program. And if one of you says the secret word, he wins the 16-millimeter Apollo Sound movie projector instantly. It's a common word, something you see every day. Mr. Jack McDonald, huh?
Yes, sir.
You're a mechanic, eh? Are you married, Jack?
Yes, sir.
Any little wenches? Any little wenches at home?
I have
Wrenches
2.
at home?
2, sir.
How'd you meet your wife?
Oh, I was invited to a party one evening, and I was told I was to have a date with a girl by the name of Verna. When I got there, I found there was 2 Vernas, so I took my choice. And,
I hope you've quit that, though, eh?
Yes, sir.
Where do you work, Jack?
Work for Mark C. Bloom, 6210 Sunset Boulevard. Open 24 hours a day. Good service.
What kind of a mechanic are you?
Garage mechanic.
You work on garages?
On cars.
Do you work on them or under them?
Under them.
Well, why do you work under the cars, huh?
That's where the work is.
Don't look now, but my clutch is slipping, huh? Now, Mrs. Buss, Hilda Buss, huh?
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Where are you from, Hilda?
I'm originally from River Falls, Wisconsin.
What is your husband's occupation?
Well, he's assistant vice president for the Equitable Life Insurance Company.
Mm-hmm. That's good business, the insurance business. Right?
Well, I think so, and he does too. Mm-hmm. Don't you?
Yes. I'm crazy about it. How'd you meet your husband, ma'am?
Well, I was selling men's real silk shorts door to door.
You were selling men's shorts? Do you model these things?
No. I met him in his private business office with a tape measure in one hand and a pair of orchid shorts in the other.
That's how you met him?
Yes, that's right.
And what did he do?
Well, I was trying to write up an order for him, and they come in the new 7-day pack. And,
What's a 7-day pack?
Well, Sunday is orchid, Monday is cardinal, Tuesday is Kelly green.
You mean you know people who change their underwear every day? Well, so?
Wednesday is champagne. Thursday is canary.
If Thursday is canary. I'll get that bird doctor back here.
Friday is salmon. Saturday is flesh color.
Flesh. What's that? No shorts at all? I suppose Sunday you spend all day washing, the other 7 days. Well, this is a whole new world you've opened to me, Hilda. Now tell me, Leaky Gasket, what's the most common type of repair job that you're called on to fix?
People come in with a trouble, they say. They does a knock and a rattle, but it's all in their head.
They got a rattle in their head? Well, what gives you the most trouble, men drivers or women?
Oh, men.
Why? Why is that?
The man, he comes in and he wants, he knows all about it, you know. And the woman driver, she comes in, says, fix it.
Now, Mrs. Buss, is this true that women don't know anything about the car they drive?
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Well, you don't have to. He just said it. Let's see how much you know. For example, you've just stepped on the starter. Now tell me, what's going on under the hood?
Oh, it makes an awful roaring sound, and there's gas going through the generator, and jumps into the spark plugs, and first thing you know, the spark plugs are sparking away, and pretty soon I start off the car.
Well, what is a microbe? Can you tell me? Now, Mrs. Buss, I'll give you one more chance. After you drive around a while, your motor heats up, doesn't it, as a rule?
Uh-huh.
Now, tell me, what keeps your car from getting too hot?
Well, open the window.
I rest my transmission, huh? Now, we're very happy to have you both here. You've been a wonderful couple, and George has the perfect Christmas gift from our sponsor.
For Mrs. Buss, Elgin American's beautiful dresser set in jeweler's bronze with a look of gold. Notice that engraved floral design, Mrs. Buss. Isn't that lovely?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you.
For our mechanic, Elgin American's exclusive heart-shaped compact that's definitely different. It's jeweler's bronze that looks like gold. His wife will truly appreciate it.
Beautiful. All right, now let's play You Bet Your Life for $1,500. You run your $20 into more than our other couples, and you get a chance at the big question. I can't tell you how much the first couple won, but George is offstage to remind our listeners.
The bacteriologist and the bird doctor won $20.
Here we go. Let's see how high I can build you $20. You selected pictures on paper money as your category. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Here's your first question. You have $20. How much are you going to try? 15. Whose picture is on the $5 bill?
Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, the old boy himself.
They're on their way with $35.
Remember, you're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of the 35 are you going to try?
30. No, 30.
You're going to try 30. Whose picture is on the $2 bill?
Jefferson.
Thomas Jefferson is right, huh?
They're on their way. They have $65.
All right, you've got $65, and here's your third question. How much of the 65 are you going to try?
60.
$60. Whose picture is on the $50 bill?
Grant.
General Grant is right.
They're really climbing now. They have $125.
All right, you're reaching the peak. You've got $125, and how much are you going to bet of the $125?
$125.
$125. Whose picture is on the $500 bill?
Harrison.
I'm sorry, it's William McKinley. That was a tough one. You gambled and you lost. Going to give you a chance to make yourselves $10 richer. It's not going to be easy, so concentrate. You ready? What animal do you find on a buffalo nickel?
Buffalo.
A buffalo is right. Thanks and good luck from Elgin American Compacts. Now, in just 1 minute, our last couple will play the Elgin American game, and then we know who gets the $1,500 question. Right now, here's something all Christmas shoppers should pay attention to.
Don't tell me your Christmas shopping is done. How on earth do you know what to buy? Me, I hunt and I shop till I'm ready to drop. Get so confused I could die.
Save your time, disposition, and money, too, where they sell Elgin American Compacts. They're perfect. They're smart. Solve your list from the start. Do as I do. Buy easily. Relax.
Yes, that's how to simplify your shopping and still give beautiful gifts. Buy Elgin American Compacts for all the women on your Christmas list. They'll be thrilled with the elegance and perfection Elgin American stands for. You'll be delighted with the values, priced from just $3.95. $2.95 for American Beauty Companion Compacts. Whatever you pay, even for sterling silver or 14-karat gold, you'll give the best gifts at the best price with the best compacts made by Elgin American.
All right, it won't be long till we know who's going to earn the chance at the $1,500 question. George, who's ahead so far?
The bacteriologist and the bird doctor are leading with $20. And the secret word is still dust. Just before we went on the air, our studio audience selected a young couple who were about to be married. And here they are, coming in from offstage. Miss Jackie Hawk and Mr. Don Peckoff. Meet Groucho Marx.
Welcome, kids, for Elgin American Compacts. And if one of you says the secret word, he wins a 16-millimeter Apollo sound movie projector instantly. It's a common word, something you see every day. Pretty classy-looking couple, I'd say. So you two are getting married, eh? Don Peckoff, that's you.
Yeah.
When is the big day, Don?
Oh, it'll be a week from Sunday.
Week from Sunday, huh? How old are you, Don?
I'm 25.
And Jackie Houck. Houck, is that right?
Yes.
Soon it'll be Jackie Pickoff, huh? How old are you, Jackie?
20.
20, huh? I presume you realize that marriage is a serious business, Don?
Yes, I do.
Would you be able to support Jackie on your income?
Oh, yes.
Are you sure of that as he is, Jackie?
Yes. In fact, we've already worked out a budget.
Oh, you dreamers in for a surprise. Where do you work, Don?
I work at Orbach's.
Is that a second-hand store?
No? No, it isn't.
Well, I'm sorry. I wish it was. I want to buy a second-hand for my watch. What do you do at Orbach's?
Oh, I work in the boys department. I sell clothing for kids from 4 to 20, and once a week I take stock. And
have you ever been caught at it? And Jackie, where do you work?
I also work at Orbach.
You work at Orbach. How did you meet this fellow, in the bargain basement? How'd you meet him, Jackie?
Well, I was out with a friend of his, and we wound up the same place during the course of the evening.
Where?
And the Hobnob, Beverly Hills.
Who were you with?
A friend of his. I said,
Don't even remember his name?
Stanley.
Stanley, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And?
And
well...
you came in?
Yeah. Oh, I came in a little later. And
who were you with?
I was with a girl named Merle.
And what happened?
Well, I went home at 12:30. Stanley took me home, and Donald picked me up at 1:45.
Why, you little sneak, you, huh? Now, look, I'm a little past that period, but how did he transmit this message to you that he was going to see you after you had stashed away this other guy, huh?
Well, we had a chance to talk between songs.
I see.
Between
And Stanley
Cokes.
wasn't looking, and he
That's right.
quick slipped him the info, huh?
He went out to get more Cokes.
Shows you, man should never leave the room. What do you do at the store, Jackie?
I'm a rapper.
A rapper?
Mm-hmm.
Pretty snappy-looking rapper. And how far from Jackie do you operate?
Oh, about 2 minutes by the escalator, 2.5 minutes by the elevator, and 4 minutes by the stairs.
There must be a faster way, isn't there?
I haven't hit on it if there is.
Have you tried squeezing in one of those little change boxes that they shoot along?
We'll try that
No, I
next time.
haven't.
How did you shop around before you decided that Don was the best boy, Jackie?
Oh, I went out on dates. Went out with quite a few fellas, I guess.
Before Escalator Eddie popped the question here, did anybody else ask you to get married in addition to your mother? Couple? Did she lean over the counter and kiss you when you proposed?
No.
She didn't give you a counter proposal, huh? Who's going to handle the money after you marry, Jackie?
He will, I guess.
Is this all settled? Do you agree on that, Don?
Oh, we're not particularly concerned about money. Well, it doesn't matter.
No, really, it's of no importance, money, huh? That is, unless you want to eat or something like that. Looking for a room or something. What's your ambition in life, Don?
I guess my first ambition is to get myself out of debt.
Well, after you're 65, what's your ambition, huh? Are there any opportunities for advancement there at Auerbach's?
Oh, yes.
You contemplate staying there?
Well, I plan on going to law school in the fall.
Then you're going to sue Auerbach, is that it? Well, if you two can stand me for 5 minutes, you'll have no trouble standing each other, I'm sure. I wish you both every happiness, and I know you're going to have a wonderful time together. Now, George Fenneman has your perfect Christmas gift from our sponsor.
For Jackie, this lovely sterling silver compact with 14-karat gold engraving, an Elgin American, of course.
Thank you.
And for Don, Elgin American's hand-engraved sterling silver cigarette case that holds 20 regular or 16 king-size cigarettes. Something you'll always be proud of, Don.
That is really nice.
Now you're going to play your bet your life. You beat our other two couples, you'll get a crack at the $1,500. I can't tell you how much they won, but George is off stage to remind our listeners.
The bacteriologist and the bird doctor are still ahead with $20.
All right, here we go. You have $20. Let's see how high you can build it. You selected songs with sweet in the title. Is that right? Now you have $20. How much are you going to bet? $10. Give me the title of this sweet song. Play, Jerry.
Sweet Leilani.
Bo-bo-bo-bo. Sweet Leilani is right.
And they're on their way with $30.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got $30. Remember, you're going for $1,500 tonight. How much of the 30 are you going to try?
20?
$20. All right, what's the name of this song?
Sweet Sue.
Sweet Sue. Sweet Sue.
They're on their way.
Sweet Sue.
They're on their way. They have $50, Groucho.
They have $50, Georgie. Well, here's your third question. How much of the 50 are you going to try?
35
40.
$40. All right, let's see if you can identify this song. Okay, Jerry.
Sweet and Lovely.
Sweet and Lovely is right.
They're climbing out, Groucho. They have $90.
Hey, don't guess quite so quick. We have a fortune tied up in these musicians. Let them play 8 bars, will you? Now you've got $90, and here's your last chance to beat the other couples. How much of the 90 are you going to try?
All of it.
Well, we have 90.
You have $90.
80?
85.
$85. That's known as the Missouri Compromise. $85.
$5 to go home.
Give me the title of this sweet song.
Sweet Sue.
Georgia Brown.
And they wind up with $175, and that means that they get a chance at the $1,500 question. And now, a word from Myron Wallace.
Perfection is the word for Elgin American's handsome lighter case. A lighter and cigarette case combined in one handy accessory. The lighter lights automatically when the cigarette case clicks closed. Buy your Elgin American lighter case from $19.95 or its companion American Beauty lighter case from $9.95. Tomorrow, ask your dealer for surefire lighter cases by Elgin American.
And here's the winning couple, Groucho, the engaged couple.
Well, back again to try for $1,500, eh? Good luck. I'll give you 15 seconds to decide on a single answer between you, so talk it over thoroughly and no help from the audience. Please. Recently, a 7-foot statue of the Mormon leader who founded Salt Lake City was erected in the Capitol in Washington. What is the name of this great Mormon leader? All right, what is the answer you two have decided upon?
All I think of is Brown.
No, I'm sorry, it's Brigham Young. It's Brigham Young. That's a shame, it's a shame. So that means the big question next week will be worth $2,000. Well, you lost the big money, but you received those lovely gifts from Elgin American, and you won $175. Congratulations, and thanks to both of you.
The Elgin American Show. You Bet Your Life is a John Goodell production, transcribed from Hollywood, directed by Bob Dwan and Bernie Smith. Music by Jerry Fielding. Remember, next week's big question pays $2,000. Be sure to tune in again next Wednesday night at this time for You Bet Your Life, starring Groucho Marx, presented by the creators of America's most beautiful compacts, smartest cigarette cases, magic action lighters, and finest dresser sets, Elgin American.
Good night, folks. Have you looked at your compact lately? And if you don't care for music, listen to George Burton sing in just 1 hour. Good night.
The Irene Dunn, Fred McMurray Show. Starring Irene Dunn as Susan and Fred McMurray as George. Together in the gay, new, exciting comedy adventure, Bright Star. Yes, it's the Irene Dunn, Fred McMurray Show, starring, well, naturally, Irene Dunn and Fred McMurray, as Susan Armstrong and George Harvey, respectively. And as we join them in the offices of the Morning Star, we find George, talking with Sammy, the office boy.
Sammy,
Yes, Mr. Harvey?
do you hear something outside which sounds like it might be a parade?
Mr. Harvey, I do.
That's funny. There can't be a parade today. I didn't know about it. There's no circus in town. It's not a holiday, no conventions. It can't be a parade.
You always know best, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Sammy.
But you better tell the band about it, because 15 guys are blowing their brains out over nothing.
Well, let me take a look, Sammy. Huh. I guess it is a parade. And they're stopping right outside the office.
Well, they don't play good, but they sure play loud.
Where's Miss Armstrong, Sammy? Do you think she knows anything about this?
She's in our office, Mr. Harvey. If you're speaking today, why don't you ask her?
Miss Armstrong and I are always on the best of terms, Sammy. Always.
Ah.
And I shall ask her. Susan, do you know anything about those 15 lease breakers down in the street?
You mean the parade? Why, no, George. I've no idea what the occasion is.
Susan?
Yes, George?
Susan, I happen to know a political hack named McDonough has been looking for a candidate his party can back for mayor.
Really?
They haven't approached you, have they?
Well,
Have they?
I would certainly not consider under any circumstances running for public office, George.
Well, that's a relief.
Except, of course, in answer to a genuine and spontaneous draft by my fellow citizens, which I could not in all conscience refuse.
No, Susan, you can't do this. You running for mayor? Well, the whole idea is ridiculous.
Miss Armstrong, it is a draft, my dear lady. I couldn't hold them back. A groundswell that I haven't seen in all my years in politics. Listen to them out there.
George, isn't it exciting? A draft.
A genuine and undeniable draft.
Well, there's enough wind here for it.
We must face it, Harvey. Your editor here has captured the imagination of the voting public of this town. A tide of public opinion is gathering. The incumbent has grown complacent and corrupt in public office. The coming storm of an aroused people will sweep him and his gang of jackals out of the city's highest office, replacing him with Miss Susan Armstrong.
McDonough, this incumbent you're asking our editor to sweep out, Tyler Hendricks. You realize his store buys about 20% of our total advertising every year?
I do. That is why I cannot urge you to accept the honor we offer, Miss Armstrong. I can only say our fair city needs women like you.
Susan.
Mr. McDonough, may I speak to them, the public?
Certainly. If you'll just step over to the window.
You're going to refuse, of course, Susan.
The people have spoken, George. It is they who deserve the answer.
The people? A few of McDonough's relatives and the tone-deaf 15?
If you will excuse us, Harvey.
My fellow citizens of Hillsdale.
That's a real tough audience.
Your emissary, John McDonough, has conveyed your very kind offer to support me for public office. I am truly and humbly grateful. I am flattered. But I cannot head the ticket of your party in the coming election.
Well, you had me worried for a minute, Susan.
No one person can head the ticket. Indeed, no. But if each and every one of you will march along with me in a sincerely democratic movement, we will restore to our city the type of government it needs and deserves.
Miss Armstrong, may I be the first to shake the hand of our new mayor?
Why, thank you. George?
Better get on the bandwagon, Harvey. You might end up as the mayor's new secretary.
I'd rather die.
Extra, read all about it. Miss Susan Armstrong, Reform Party candidate for mayor.
Bringing her big guns to bear on the Hendricks administration, Miss Susan Armstrong told an overflow audience at Helps Hall tonight that what this city needs is a woman who will clean house.
Extra, Tyler Hendricks cancels advertising in Hillsdale Morning Star as a result of campaign. Extra.
And so I say to you, fellow citizens, it is later than you think. Either we stem now the tide of corruption and inefficiency in the government of our fair city, or we struggle along forever in its noxious flow, seeking to forget in our misery that we had been offered the helping hand of one who was capable of returning Hillsdale to the place of honor it occupied in time of our forefathers. Miss Susan Armstrong.
Well, how's the campaign look to you, Mr. Harvey?
Terrible. I think she might win.
Well, don't worry, Mr. Harvey. I don't think Miss Armstrong being elected will change things between you at all.
Thanks.
She might even marry you. Then you won't have to argue so much.
Well, that's a thought.
And think of the satisfaction, Mr. Harvey, of being a silent contributor to the welfare of our city.
Sammy.
Well, the world sees only the efficient, tireless mayor. You and I will know, Mr. Harvey, that there is one who is always ready with a quick smile and a cheery word when things aren't going right at City Hall. One who keeps himself in the background ever. But she and she alone
Sammy,
knows...
haven't you someplace to go, like the home for delinquents?
I was just trying to look on the bright side of things, Mr. Harvey.
Well, thanks very much.
It was nothing.
George Harvey, First Lady of our city. I think I'll join the Foreign Legion.
Here, Your Honor. Will you take my things, Patience? Mm-hmm. I've got 1,000,001 things to do. Phone calls, speeches to write, publicity to read over, and... Oh, yes, George is dropping by later.
For dinner, Miss Armstrong?
No, later. I don't have the time. And you can just give me a quick bite on the run.
You run by, and I'll bite you.
What?
Just a small, non-political joke. How is George? He must be getting thin since the campaign started.
George? Oh, he's about the same, I guess, Patience. Have I been neglecting George? Yes, I guess I have. Well, I'll be more than usually nice to him tonight. I'll see to it that we have the whole evening to ourselves. The entire evening. That is, after he writes 1 or 2 speeches for me.
That's a romantic setting. An ink-stained Romeo.
Oh, dear, I totally forgot. Mr. McDonough's dropping in later, too. You think George will mind?
Why, no, not at all. It's just like having a blind date with Siamese twins, that's all.
Patience, I almost hope I don't get elected.
If you're trying to lose George's vote, I think you've made it.
Good evening, Patience. Is the Lord High Mayor of Hillsdale in residence?
She's receiving delegates of the common people in the living room, Mr. Harvey.
What's happened to this house, Patience? It's different. It doesn't even smell the same anymore.
It's the lack of cooking. My duties are confined chiefly to opening sardine cans.
It's a tough election.
Mr. Harvey, Miss Armstrong.
Thank you, Patience. George, how nice of you to come.
Nobody fights City Hall.
Sit down, George. Sit down there. Oh, it's been so long since we've really talked.
Hasn't it?
Wonderful weather.
Yeah. Terrific. If you like weather.
Seen any shows lately?
No.
Well,
Well, I know you're busy, Mrs. Mayer, and I won't impose on your...
George, sit down. No, don't sit over there again. Sit here by me.
Well, just for a minute.
A minute? George, don't you realize I planned this whole evening just so the two of us could have it together?
You did? But what about the speeches you wanted me to write?
Oh, forget about the speeches. Why should we spend the whole evening writing speeches?
Susan, you're so right.
That's much better.
You don't know what a pleasure it is to be able to talk to you without elbowing aside 24 ward heelers.
Really?
And honest John McDonough. Well, when I think of the gall of McDonough's so-called reform party asking you to save their chestnuts for them-
George.
Oh. You're right, Susan. I won't say another word. You sure you got enough room on this sofa?
Plenty. Am I crowding you?
Crowding me.
This is nice, isn't it?
You know, Susan, you're too beautiful to be a mayor.
Oh, George.
That's true. Nobody's going to be able to keep their minds on their work. I can hardly keep my mind on what I'm saying right now.
You don't have to say anything, George.
That's what I was working up to.
George.
Susan.
Well, hope I'm not interrupting anything, folks.
No, McDonough. You're just what the party needs.
Patience, let me in. I hope I'm not late, Miss Armstrong.
Late? Susan, I thought you said...
Well, do we have much business to go over, Mr. McDonough?
Not much, but you can't blame me for dragging it out as long as possible, Miss Susan.
Melonhead.
Huh?
George just said, go right ahead, Mr. McDonough.
Oh, just a few minor matters of business we have to get your okay on, Miss Susan. Yes, here we are. So minor, I'd almost forgotten what they were. Ready?
Sure. I left my wallet at home.
George. Yes, go ahead, Mr. McDonough.
Now, for sheriff. The Reform Party candidate's been forced to drop out because of ill health. But at this late date, we were very fortunate in getting a Jim Dandy replacement and veteran police officer, Honest Phil Waltman.
Honest Phil Waltman? Him? Well, they had to promote him from pounding a beat because he was stealing the sidewalks.
Please, George. I'm sure that the leaders of the Reform Party would not suggest anyone they're not absolutely sure of.
Well, they're sure of him, all right.
I thank you for your confidence, dear lady. Just one more minor matter. Our candidate for city treasurer has also been forced to drop out. Ill health.
Sounds like an epidemic.
But in his place, we have, after a great deal of persuasion, secured a really outstanding man in the field of clean government. Honest Jack Stewart.
No. For city treasurer? Well, that's like leaving a hungry Great Dane alone in a butcher shop.
George, do you have anything concrete against either one of these men?
Well, concrete? No. They're both very intelligent men. They've never been caught.
Miss Armstrong, I can assure you that the screening board of the Reform Party has gone through the past life of each of these men with a fine-tooth comb. Of course, if you would prefer to listen to unfounded rumors...
Susan, I positively forbid you to run on the same slate with either of these crooks.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I do.
Mr. McDonough, you can tell the party leaders that I have the utmost faith in their judgment.
Someday I'm going to learn to keep my big mouth shut.
And now, back to our two stars, Irene Dunn and Fred McMurray, and the second act of our story. As we join them, we find that the situation is, well, shall we say, a bit tense.
Good morning, Mr. Harvey. Pleasant evening at the home of our future mayor?
Certainly, Sammy. A thoroughly pleasant disaster. Miss Armstrong come in yet?
Not yet.
Well, let me know when she... Oh, here she is. Susan.
Good morning, Sammy.
Hi, Miss Armstrong.
Morning, George.
Susan, I've been thinking her last night over. I've decided that I was wrong.
Well, I might have been in the wrong myself, George, but we can talk it out.
No, I was wrong. First, I decided that if you were bullheaded enough to accept those two crooks on your ticket, I'd let you do it. But then I saw that I have a duty to this city which overrides mere personality.
indeed.
And you being a reasonable person, Susan, I was sure that after you'd slept on it, you'd come around to my way of thinking.
Well, Sammy, will you inform Mr. Harvey that his opinions on the political scene are of interest to no one but himself?
Sure. Mr. Harvey, Miss Armstrong says that you're...
Sammy, will you point out to Miss Armstrong that running for political office is just a little more complicated than buying a new hat? And that it takes someone of experience to see what these crooks on her side are up to?
Be glad to. Miss
Sammy,
Armstrong...
will you make it clear to Mr. Harvey that it's after 9 o'clock and that his duties on this paper, which start every morning promptly at that hour, do not include the position of political editor? I shall be in my office.
Mr. Harvey, Miss Armstrong says that
I heard her, Sammy. And, Sammy, I am going to rescue Miss Armstrong from the consequences of her folly, whether she wants to be rescued or not. Tell that to Miss Armstrong.
You know, I feel just like a carrier pigeon. Mr. Harvey.
Quiet, Sammy.
Mr. Harvey, I just thought, couldn't we be put in jail for this?
We are serving our country, Sammy. We have to get some information on McDonough and those two other crooks. The place to look for it is the Reform Party headquarters.
You convinced me, but can you convince a judge?
Quiet. Here we are. Hand me that skeleton key, Sammy. Now you wait outside here, Sammy. If anybody comes, whistle.
If anybody comes, whistle. Good luck, Mr. Harvey.
Thanks. See a light switch here someplace. Yeah, got it. Now, let's see. File cabinet over here. Wonder what I should look under. G for graft. Nothing here. Nothing here. Nothing here.
Looking for something?
Huh? Oh. No, I was just browsing. It's Sammy.
Isn't it a late hour for browsers?
Well, insomnia.
I'm Mr. McDonough's secretary.
Oh?
Who are you? A spy?
Why, no, not that at all. As a matter of fact, I'm send for the police. I'm a spy.
And I'm Gloria.
Oh, glad to know you, Gloria. I'm George.
George.
Yes?
I suppose you're going to compel me to give you the information you want.
Huh?
Force it out of me.
Force it out of you?
I'm helpless. You're strong, virile, fiercely determined. And we're alone together.
We are?
You gorgeous, magnificent brute, you.
It's nothing, really.
I can't withstand you another minute. All the confidential records are in the top left drawer of Mr. McDonough's desk. There. I've told. But I couldn't help myself.
Say, they are here. Gloria, won't you get in trouble about this?
Trouble? McDonough fired me today. I just came down tonight to clean out my desk and steal carbon paper.
Oh.
But you were very masterful, George.
I was? Say, didn't the kid outside whistle when you came in here?
He sure did. Where do kids that age learn to whistle like that?
Hello?
Susan, this is George. Susan, I've got to...
George, what time is it?
It's a little after midnight.
Well, I'm sorry, George, but I don't want to come to any party. You tell me about it tomorrow.
Susan, wait.
Yes?
I've just dug up the confidential records on McDonough and all the rest of his gang. You've got to withdraw as their candidate, Susan. You've got to go over to McDonough's house tonight.
Are you serious, George?
Wait till you see the stuff I've got on them.
Really?
Really. I'll meet you outside of McDonough's place in half an hour.
All right, George. You won't say I told you so. I just couldn't stand it if you did.
Only once. I told you so. I'll see you in a half hour.
Well, these are very serious charges, young lady. Very serious charges so close to an election.
I have the documentation right here to back up the charges, Mr. McDonough.
So you have. And what do you propose to do now?
I'm withdrawing from the race tomorrow, and I'm giving full publicity to your record in my paper.
Miss Susan, I think the Reform Party can be persuaded through my influence to allow you to withdraw without prejudice.
Allow me? Oh, that's very kind of them.
Fortunately, we have another candidate available. A man well known for his past service to the community and for his rock-bound incorruptibility. Me.
And just how many votes do you think you'll get after I expose your record?
Miss Susan, you are an unfortunate captive of your own high convictions. When you entered this race, your opponent canceled his advertising in your paper. Your sacrifice for the community good was widely applauded. If you withdraw now and turn against your own party, the citizens of this fair city can only conclude that a sordid deal was made between you and your opponent.
But you
so
don't
as I say, we will allow you to withdraw in my favor. When duty calls, honest John McDonough was never one to withhold himself. Perhaps a speech, election eve, in my favor might be a touching gesture?
Never.
Yes, I think it would almost be a necessity. Otherwise, an entirely unfortunate smear campaign against you would have to be set in progress. Also, against your paper. There would be nothing I would regret more deeply.
Well, I'll have to talk it over with Mr. Harvey. He's waiting outside.
I regret also that you will have to keep this conversation between us a secret, as a security measure. Good night, Miss Susan, and thank you for coming. I'm sure you would have made a most excellent mayor.
Extra, Susan Armstrong withdraws from race. McDonough, New Reform Party choice. Extra, read all about it.
And on this election eve, the big topic of conversation is newspaper editor Susan Armstrong's sudden and unexplained withdrawal from the morality race. Much speculation exists as to whether Miss Armstrong will appear on the platform tonight to champion the cause of the new candidate, veteran politician Honest John McDonough.
Extra, Susan Armstrong to support McDonough speaks tonight at election rally. Read all about
it. Is my dress all right, Patience? Not too extreme for a public gathering.
There's nothing wrong with the dress, Miss Armstrong.
But you're not so sure about me.
You're not really going to make a speech tonight in favor of McDonough, are you?
The Reform Party can't count on your vote, Patience?
The Reform Party. The Reform School Party. Miss Armstrong, it's entirely against my principles, but this time I'm siding with George.
And you don't trust me to do what's best for the town or the newspaper?
Of course I do. I just wish you'd do something else, that's all.
You mean you're not coming to the rally?
No. Oh, fool that I am. I'll most likely be there.
Thank you, Patience.
Don't thank me. Just don't make me wish I hadn't come.
Big
crowd, huh, Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, I wish it wasn't so big.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Harvey. I'm sure whatever Miss Armstrong does will be for the best.
Thank you, boy philosopher.
And now, citizens of our fair city of Hillsdale, crown jewel in the diadem of Marmoset County, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the little lady who stepped aside in order to make way for a more experienced hand on the tiller. As the new candidate of the Reform Party, I commend to your attention our former standard bearer, Miss Susan Armstrong.
Gee, she's really going to talk, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, I'm afraid she is, Sammy.
My friends of Hillsdale, there has been considerable speculation as to why I removed myself as a candidate for mayor and as to whether I would tonight endorse the candidacy of Honest John McDonough. To answer your doubts, I do endorse Mr. McDonough.
Let's go home, Sammy.
I'm with you, Mr. Harvey.
My reasons why Mr. McDonough would make a much better mayor than I could hope to be are many. I shall name a few. As befits a public official, Honest John is thrifty. Out of his alderman's salary of $2,000 a year, I happen to know that he has in the past 5 years saved over $200,000.
Hey, stop that dame.
Let her talk.
Mr. McDonough is loyal. 23 members of his immediate family are on the city payroll, 14 of whom have been dead from 6 to 20 years.
Hey, Mike, Frankie, get the dame away from the microphone. She's killing us. Let me at her.
Stay right here, friend.
Oh!
I want you to hear the rest of this. Give it to him, Susan.
You tell him, Susan. To continue. Mr. McDonough is the greatest vote-getter in the history of this or any other city. In the last election held in his district, out of a total of 3,000 registered voters, McDonough polled over 4,000 votes. And so I ask you, with these facts in mind when you go to the polls tomorrow, who is your choice for mayor, McDonough or Hendricks?
Hey, let me through here. Pardon me. Susan.
George. Oh, George, was I all right, George?
All right, you were wonderful. You were terrific. McDonough hasn't got a chance.
You think it was a surprise?
Surprise? Was it? Why, nobody in the whole city expected anything like... Well, nobody but me, of course. I knew it all the time. Hey, come on, let's get out of here.
Our stars, Irene Dunn and Fred McMurray, will be back in a moment.
George,
Yes, Susan?
final election results in?
Just finishing my story. Hendricks in a landslide.
Well, he's stuffy, but I'm sure he's honest.
An ideal mayor.
You don't think I would have made a good mayor?
Well, of course, Susan. It's just that... Well...
It's just what?
Well, that every time a new beauty queen is crowned, the mayor is supposed to have his picture taken kissing her. You'd have to admit you look pretty silly.
Yes, that's true. But, George,
Hmm?
just imagine the Navy coming to town.
You know, I'm glad you didn't win.
Irene Dunn and Fred McMurray will be back next week in another exciting comedy adventure in the gay new series, Bright Star. This is Harry Von Zell inviting you to join us then.
The great chief of the Sioux Indians is Sitting Bull. He's a rather difficult chap to meet, especially when he's planning for war.
Frontier Gentlemen. Herewith an Englishman's account of life and death in the West. As a reporter for the London Times, he writes his colorful and unusual accounts. But as a man with a gun, he lives and becomes a part of the violent years in the new territories. Now, starring John Dehner, this is the story of J.B. Kendall, Frontier Gentleman.
The distance from South Sunday to Rosebud in Montana Territory is about 30 miles. Due to a heavy rainstorm and my lack of funds, it had taken me a week to reach Rosebud. Luckily, when I arrived, my remittance from England, $250, had already been forwarded, and I was once again solvent. After posting off my weekly report to the London Times, I went to the most likely place in Rosebud to get local color and information. Except for the bartender polishing his glasses and a cat on the bar, the place was quite empty. I ordered a drink.
2 bits.
Thank you.
It's all right. Hush up, cat. Where are you from, mister?
London.
London, England?
That's right.
Well, if that don't beat all, my great-grandpa come from there. Jackson Beeson's the name.
J.B. Kendall.
Well, howdy.
How do you do, sir? Tell me, Mr. Beeson, what's the situation with the Indians these days?
Well, now you come to the right place for that bit of news. Oh, get away, cat. Yes, sir, we're going to have trouble. You can thank your stars that we got General Gibbon here keeping an eye out. I hear tell Custer's on his way, too.
Oh, bad as that, huh?
Worse. Well, just yesterday, correspondence fella like you, he come in, works on the Montana Telegraph News. Jackson, he says, them Sioux is working up to a boil. Oh, it's going to be wicked, mighty wicked.
Do you think it'll mean war?
I don't have to think, I know. You cat, get out of here. Go on, get out, get out. Darn cat's a regular drunkard.
This correspondent chap, is he still here?
Charlie Meeker? Oh, sure, he's around somewhere.
I'd like to meet him.
Right nice fella. Now, let's see, you might try up to Dolly's place, cross the street there, second house on the right. Can't miss it. Just ask for Charlie. He rooms at Dolly's.
Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm. And look, if he ain't there, I'll tell him you're looking for him when he comes back. You stop by tonight.
Right.
Well, hello, early bird.
Good afternoon, madam. This is Dolly's place?
Why, sure it is. You come on in.
Ah.
It's nice and warm inside, honey.
Yeah, I'm looking for a gentleman named Charles Meeker.
Charlie, what do you want with him?
Oh, well, I was told I could find him here. The bartender...
Oh, Jack Beeson sent you.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
all right. Well, step inside. I'm freezing my... Mary! Go wake up Charlie. There's a fella here to see him. I guess you better wait in the parlor. Say, now, I hope you'll forgive the looks of this room. Some of the boys got a little rowdy last night. We haven't cleaned it up yet.
Not at all. Charming.
You're new in Rosebud, ain't you?
Yes.
Well, that's nice. That's real nice. I can see you're a gentleman. Always nice to meet a gentleman. Sit down. Make yourself comfortable. Mr.
Kendall.
Well, Mr. Kendall. You're a friend of Charlie's, huh?
No, we've never met.
Well, he's a nice boy. He's real nice. He sure never forgets me. Any time he's in these parts, he brings old Dolly a present. Can I get you a drink?
No, thanks just the same.
Hey, you ain't a dominie, are you?
Dom?
A preacher?
Oh, no.
Well, I sure do admire to hear you talk. I wish you'd say something else.
Somebody looking for me, Dolly?
Oh, this here's Mr. Kendall, Charlie boy.
All right.
How do you do, sir?
Well, you got business to talk, so make yourselves at home. It's sure been a pleasure, Mr. Kendall. Maybe you'll call again.
Thank you very much.
You'll have to excuse me, Kendall. I just woke up. Big night. Oh. And a big head. What can I do for you?
I understand you write for a newspaper, Mr. Meeker.
Charlie. Yeah, Virginia City, Montana Telegraph News.
I know. I do some correspondence myself for the London Times.
Hey, I'm proud to meet you.
May I return the compliment? Look here. Is it true what I've been hearing, these rumors about a Sioux uprising?
Yeah, more than rumors. It's coming.
Well, this chief, Sitting Bull, have you ever seen him?
Once, a few years back. Big council between one of our government commissions and the Indians.
Oh, I'd like to meet him. See him, you know?
No, not a chance, not anymore. While ago, maybe, but those Indians don't trust the white man now. I tell you, they're getting ready for war.
Is there any way to make contact with him?
Probably. There's plenty of Indian scouts, interpreters hereabouts who could, but for a white man, it'd be worth his scalp.
How would one go about it?
Are you serious?
Completely. Do you know where I could find him?
I got a pretty good idea. You want a drink?
No, thank you.
There's talk of a whole lot of Indians moving off the reservations, going up Tongue River country. Might be headed for Sitting Bull's camp.
How far would that be?
30 miles, maybe. Now, listen, mister. When the Sioux go on the warpath, the best place for you and me is someplace else.
Well, do you think you could find me one of those Indian scouts? Someone to guide me to Sitting Bull's camp?
You mean it, don't you?
Absolutely.
What a story. Interview with Chief Sitting Bull? Oh, it's crazy. They'd kill us, sure. No, Kendall, the best thing for you is to talk to some of the old-timers. They'll tell you about him, and then you can send your report in on that. It's a whole lot safer.
That evening in Beeson's saloon, Charlie Meeker found a half-breed interpreter, Johnny Duchelle. He was a big man, dark, with handsome features, and when he smiled, which he did constantly, there was something at odds in his eyes, veiled, a coldness. He was playing a game of solitaire, and as he dealt his cards, I noticed that inside his sleeve was a wrist holster. Strapped to it, a derringer.
You want to talk with Sitting Bull?
That's right, Johnny.
Him too?
Me too.
Suppose he don't want any talk with you. Suppose he want to take your scalp.
That would be rather awkward.
Johnny, how well do you know the chief?
How well does any man know another?
Charlie says you've done scouting work for General Crook. Well, doesn't that make you Sitting Bull's enemy?
Yesterday I scout for the soldier. Tomorrow maybe I fight with the Indian. Who knows?
Yes. Well, the point would seem to be, whose side are you on if you do guide us?
If I do this thing, you put your trust in me.
I see.
Well, what do you say, Johnny? Can you take us to him?
Black ace on the red 2. Yeah.
You got $50, Silver?
Kind of high, isn't it?
Sitting Bull, one big chief. You want me to take you to Red Cloud, Crazy Horse? Maybe cost less.
What do you think, Kendall?
I'm not sure.
Maybe you find somebody, do it for less. He take you to India and cut out your heart, huh?
Now, Johnny's all right. 25 apiece would be worth it.
All right. When, Johnny?
Tomorrow.
Fine.
Take no guns.
Hey, wait a minute.
Indians see you with guns, they say you coming for no good. Without guns, in peace. No gun.
It's sort of risky, isn't it, Johnny?
Not with me, along with you.
What time?
We meet outside the state station. 6 o'clock.
See you then.
Well, then you better give it to me right now. There, then. All right.
Well, you still want to go?
I'm not sure about that, fellow.
That's a chance you take these days. We can back out.
No. But to be on the safe side, Charlie, I think 2 guns in shoulder holsters would make me feel a bit better.
Sure. You got them? Never use a gun myself.
Oh. Oh, yes, I've got them. Look here, Charlie. Now, this was my idea. No need for you to come along, you know.
What's the matter? You want the story for yourself?
No, not that at all.
I'm sorry.
I only thought that...
Forget it. We'll go together. Hey, how about coming over to Dolly's with me for nightcap?
No, thanks, not tonight. Sleep for me.
Oh. Well, see you in the morning. We can pick up horses at the livery stable. So long.
I watched him walk away, a rather short, thin man, shoulders a little rounded. And then he was lost in the shadows, and I had that odd sensation of having lived this moment before. It had been in Peshawar, in northern India. I remembered a good friend who had walked away from me in the night. The next morning, his head was thrown through the barracks window.
In a moment, we return to Frontier Gentlemen. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Cry and say, where'd everybody go? Chances are they've taken off in the direction of CBS Radio's Peter and Mary show. Peter Lind Hayes and Mary Healy have a magic way of banishing the blues. Their amusing notions about practically everything, the easy way they sing their songs, and the exciting personalities who visit them all make CBS Radio's Peter and Mary show a cure for the blues. Listen for them on most of these same stations tomorrow. And now we return you to Anthony Ellis's production of Frontier Gentlemen.
morning was gray, a bit windy. We left Rosebud at 6 o'clock and rode steadily toward the southeast. I could see no sign of a gun on our guide, Johnny Duchel, but his bulky jacket could have hidden an arsenal. For perhaps over an hour we didn't speak. Charlie, red-eyed from want of sleep and too much whiskey, nodded in his saddle. The half-breed traveled a little ahead of us, cautious, watchful.
Hey, Kendall.
Yes?
Never drink Dolly's rot gut.
I won't.
I can take the pepper, even the tobacco juice she puts in it. But that whiskey...
You know, we had a cure for your complaint in India.
Oh?
Curry powder, ginger, a snake's head, preferably a cobra, a big spoon of sugar, stew the whole thing in a pot of strong tea, and then drink it down. Exactly. It's a miraculous cure. You'd probably end up chucking the whole mess out the window, but you forgot your headache.
What were you doing in India?
Army, mostly.
Officer?
At one time, captain.
See much fighting?
Enough.
What were you with?
The cavalry regiment.
You don't like to talk about it much, do you?
No, not much.
Hey, better hold up. Johnny's seen something.
In timber. Cheyenne, I think. You stay. I talk to them.
How many? Can you see?
5 or 6. Might be others in the woods.
You know something funny? I'm scared.
Think about your headache.
No, thanks. Too close to my hair. You ever see a scalped man?
No. But I shouldn't worry. The tribesmen do much nastier things to get their trophies in India.
Johnny must know them. Look.
All very friendly. Hello. They must have given their blessings.
You think so?
Either that or Johnny's made an arrangement with them to cut our throats. He looks happy enough.
That tall wolf and his braves. They will ride to the council. Tell of our coming.
Glad to hear it.
We go on now.
Johnny smiled, turned away, and we rode on. I had the distinct feeling that he knew exactly what he was doing, and we didn't. Another hour passed. If there were more Indians about, we didn't see them. The terrain was becoming more rugged, and when we reached a narrow stream, Johnny called a halt.
We rest the horses.
All right.
I think I'll get myself a drink. Water, that is.
Funny we haven't seen any more Indians, Johnny.
They all at great council.
You seem pretty sure we won't be attacked.
I told Tall Wolf you come in peace.
Possibly there are others beside Tall Wolf who won't feel as he does.
Possibly. We see at the council.
But you're not worried, though.
I am not worried.
You're smiling.
Good for a man to smile.
Depends on his reason.
I smile because you paid me $50 silver to bring you here.
Tell me, Johnny, what will it cost to take us back?
The cost to you will not matter. I think you will not be going back.
He made a slight movement with his hand, and a derringer appeared in it. For a moment, I had forgotten his wrist holster. He was standing no more than 4 feet from me, and I didn't move. If you've ever seen what a .41 derringer can do to a man, you'd understand. Then he brought out a revolver from his jacket and backed away a few steps. That was when I saw Charlie at the stream. He had a rock in his hand, his arm cocked back. At the moment he threw it, the half-breed turned and saw him. Where are you hit, Charlie?
Chest. Boy, that feels worse than Dolly's rot gut.
He's not dead?
No, I'm not dead, you stinking breed.
You, Kendall, take off your jacket. Untie those shoulder holsters. Let them fall to the ground. Move back. Stop. You both got more silver. Give it to me.
I'll spit in your eye first.
I told Tall Wolf I take you to Sitting Bull as my prisoner, alive. He will think well of me, give me place of trust.
Your own mother wouldn't trust you, Johnny.
With much silver, 2 horses, even a stinking breed will be important man. Give it to me.
You'll find a bag in my jacket.
Good. Now, you both, you walk. I ride behind.
Can you get up, Charlie?
Sure.
Here, I'll help you. It's my fault. I should have done something sooner. I wasn't sure about him.
Walk. Cross the stream. Follow the trail.
Come on. Lean on me.
I can't go on anymore.
He is dead.
Let me put him on a horse.
He called me stinking breed. Let him walk.
He can't. He's done in.
Then you carry him.
Let him rest for a minute.
A minute.
Charlie, can you hear me? Listen to me, Charlie. The trail narrows a few yards along. There's a slope on our left. Do you hear me, Charlie?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you fall. If I can get him to take his eyes off me, there's a knife in my boot.
All right. Good luck.
All right, Charlie. Up you come. Getting close, Charlie. Now, when you fall, keep your head down in case he starts shooting.
What a way to die. I could hit Dolly's right now.
If we get back alive, I'll join you. About 10 more steps, Charlie. Now, Charlie. For a moment, I had a glimpse of Charlie sliding, falling down the hill slope. Then he disappeared into the underbrush. I turned to face Johnny Duchelle, the knife in my hand. Johnny was standing in his stirrups, craning his head to see over the trail's edge. He was no more than 15 feet from me. It must have been the horse shifting its weight that disturbed my aim. I threw, and the knife struck high on his shoulder. He half fell from the saddle, and I ran for him. I felt one of the bullets from his gun burn my cheek. Then we were rolling down the hill. Somewhere on the way, he lost the gun, but the knife was stabbing, cutting at me. Charlie. Charlie. It's all right. It's all right, Charlie. He's finished. He's finished.
Something tells me we don't get to see Sitting Bull today.
Better luck next time.
Hey, Kendall. Whiskey's paid for. But I owe Dolly for room and board. It's only...
Charlie? Charlie? I took Charlie back to Rosebud, to Dolly's place. She had me put the little man on the parlor couch. Then she knelt by his side, took his hand in hers.
Charlie boy, it's Dolly. This was my play, son, mister, like the one I never had. My good, Bad boy. Dolly misses you, Charlie boy. Wake up, son.
Most of Rosebud attended the funeral of Charles Meeker. I sent the story to his own newspaper, as well as to the London Times. And for Charlie, I decided to stay on in Rosebud, to have another shot at a meeting with Sitting Bull.
Frontier Gentlemen was written, produced, and directed by Anthony Ellis and stars John Daner as J.B. Kendall. Featured in the cast were Jeanette Nolan, Lawrence Dobkin, Harry Bartell, and Junius Matthews. Music was composed by Jerry Goldsmith and conducted by Wilbur Hatch. Later today, you'll have 5 more engrossing dramas waiting for you on CBS Radio, starting with Suspense, which today stars Herbert Marshall. You can look forward to plenty of action and plenty of thrills with yours truly, Johnny Dollar, the FBI in Peace and War, Indictment, and Gunsmoke. For good listening, keep listening to CBS Radio. Now, stay tuned for the Ford Road Show, which follows immediately over most of these same stations. Join us again next week for another report from the Frontier Gentlemen. Johnny Jacobs speaking. This is the CBS Radio Network.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Bicker, a city in England, was hit by 12 high-explosive Nazi bombs in World War II. And all of them were duds. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you about the Singing Sailors. During World War II, a British submarine lay disabled on the ocean floor. After 2 days of frantic efforts, the British Admiralty gave up all hopes of raising her. On orders of the captain, the crew began to sing Abide With Me. Sedatives were distributed to all hands. One seaman swooned and fell against some equipment. The impact set in motion the jammed surfacing apparatus. The boat rose to the surface and made port safely. Believe it or not.
Truth is stranger than fiction. And this is the proof. This is Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Olav Tryggvason, who became King Olav I of Norway, avenged the murder of his foster father by slaying the killer with a hatchet. Yet at the time, he was only 9 years old. Believe it or not. In a moment, I'll tell you about a prophecy of doom. There is no logical explanation why many times dreams come true with uncanny accuracy. On December 3rd, 1874, Mrs. Albert E. Royce of Bowling Green, Ohio, told her family that she had dreamed she would get sick on November 27th, 1877, and that she would die on the following December 3rd. As it happened, she became sick and died exactly as she had dreamed it 3 years earlier. Believe it or not.
Adventures by Morse. Carlton E. Morse presents The City of the Dead, featuring Captain Friday.
If you like high adventure, come with me.
If you like the stealth of intrigue, come with me. If you like blood and thunder, come with me.
"2:00 on the afternoon of the third day in the City of the Dead. A drenching wet blanket of fog still lays upon this old abandoned cemetery. In our last episode, Jimmy Parker and Dr. Tuner had gone down into the City of the Dead in search of the phantom church bell, leaving Phyllis Carroll alone with Mayor Friday. Jimmy tried to prevent this arrangement, but was unsuccessful, and so at the last minute he slipped Phyllis the knife with which she had been stabbed 2 days previously, and a police whistle. If in danger, she was to blow the whistle. Jimmy and Doc then went down to the old church ruins and accidentally discovered the bell in the basement of the ruins.
But that wasn't all we found. There was a man down there. He was bound and gagged and near death from a blow on the head and from starvation. He was the one who had been ringing the bell. Dr. Tuner and I unbound the now unconscious fellow and started back to the cottage with him. And halfway there, suddenly out of the murk and gloom came the piercing squeal of a police whistle. I knew that meant Phyllis was in danger. I dropped the unconscious man and ran through the fog for the cottage, leaving Doc Tuner to follow with the stranger as best he could. I'm coming! I'm coming, Phil! Oh, I was a fool to leave her with Mayor Friday. Here's the house. Phil! Phil, I'm coming! I'm coming! Phyllis! Phyllis, what's the matter?
Jimmy, you're so white. What's the matter with you?
Well, isn't anything wrong? You blew the whistle?
Why, no, I didn't, Jimmy.
You mean that police whistle, Parker?
Captain Friday. Well, where did you come from?
He's back, Jimmy. Nothing happened to him at all.
Never mind that now. Were you talking about the police whistle?
Yes.
There's one of my men outside. I've got a whole crew down from the city hunting for that phantom church bell.
Well, you don't need him. Dr. Tuner and I found it.
What? You found it? You say you found the phantom church bell? Where?
Yeah, Mayor Friday. Found it in the basement of the old church.
Basement. Basement. Well, now, ain't that the beatin'est thing? Why didn't I think of that right off? But who in Sam here would think of looking in a basement for a ringing bell?
Oh, but look here, Parker. What made the bell ring?
Well, there was a man. Say, we've got to go help Dr. Tuner. He's got a dying man down there in the City of the Dead. I left him alone when I heard the whistle.
A man? Who is it?
I never saw him before. Neither did the doctor.
You say he's dying?
Well, that's what Dr. Tuner said.
Well, come on, Parker. I want to see that man.
Well, listen. Here he comes now.
Captain Friday, now, where in Tunket...
Never mind that now, Doc. What'd you do with the man?
I reckon you won't need him any longer.
Of course I do. I want to question him.
Can't question him, Captain. He died back yonder while I was fetching him up.
Died? Without saying a word?
Unconscious for a few seconds. Gave his name, told me who he was, and how come he was tied up, and then he died.
Oh, the poor fellow.
Well, who was he?
Said his name was William Rogers. Said he was an employee of Cartwright, Hobson, and Cartwright, the attorneys who sent Miss Carroll here her letter about where the black pearls were hidden.
There. That's the key to the whole story. That's what I've been looking for. Doc, did he say what he was doing down here in the City of the Dead?
He said he was looking for the black pearl.
Why, the dirty, double-crossing son of a thief, he got what was coming to him.
Them was his own last words, Captain. Said he deserved what he got.
Did he say how he got information about the pearls?
Yes, he said that 2 days before the letter was sent to Miss Carroll, it was taken out of the company vault and put in a special file. He had access to this file and made a practice of stealing information that he could sell.
What a fine piece of jailbait he was. Cartwright will be tickled pink to hear about this. Well, that just about gives me a line on this whole affair.
You mean you can explain everything now?
Yes, Miss Carroll. It's a deuce of a mess, but I got it straight, I think.
And you don't think Jimmy or I killed my cousin, Bert Arnold?
No, wait. Let's go back to the beginning of the whole thing. Here, sit down, Parker. You too, Doctor. It's a long and intricate story, and it's going to take a while telling you.
Sit here on the bed beside me, Jimmy.
Oh, you mind putting another log on the fire first, Parker?
Oh, sure thing.
So you got the whole thing straightened out, Captain.
Yeah, but with you and Dad acting like a couple of clams, I mighty near slipped up.
So you think you got the thing straightened out now, huh, son?
I certainly have, Dad. No fooling. Oh, you all set, Parker?
Yeah. Go ahead. Comfortable, Phil?
Oh, yes, Jimmy.
Well, as I said, to get the thing straight, we'll have to start way back at the beginning.
You mean the night we caught these two youngsters sneaking out of the City of the Dead? The night somebody shot at the mayor?
No much further back than that, Doc. We'll have to go way back to the San Francisco fire in 1906.
Oh.
Yes, Miss Carroll. Back to the time when your grandfather, Theodore Beverly, and your uncle Robert Beverly lost everything in the blaze.
Robert Beverly? You mean my uncle who disappeared?
That's right.
Is he mixed up in this, too?
Oh, rather. Well, this is the way things happened. On the night the fire got such a hold on San Francisco that it was apparent most of the business and residential district was going to burn, old Theodore Beverly and his son Robert took that precious collection of pearls, drove down here to the City of the Dead, and buried them in one of the graves. Their clue to the place where the pearls were buried was the name on the tombstone. The name was Ernest Morton.
Well, that explains all the activity in the vicinity of Ernie Morton's grave.
Yes. Now then, after the fire had been subdued in San Francisco and everything was put more or less to rights, old man Beverly and Robert came down here to recover their hidden treasure. It wasn't there.
What?
Nope, not there.
Oh, but I don't understand. What about the letter he left with the Cartwright lawyers for me?
Well, the old man lost a good deal of his reason in the fire. He saw his business burn up before his eyes. He saw his great fortune vanish overnight. Saw his beautiful home burn, everything go. His mind went with it. So even before they returned for the pearls, Theodore Beverly was a broken man.
Well, then he might have forgotten where he hid the pearls.
Yeah, but Robert should have remembered.
That's true, and yet Robert wasn't all that he might have been. I'll have to say a little about him to explain. He was an unhealthy young man, had always been pampered, not too brilliant. In every way, a minus quantity. Almost subnormal, wouldn't you say, Dr. Tuner?
No, I wouldn't say that. Just a fellow who'd never have to lift a hand to help himself. Absolutely at sea when thrown on his own.
Well, there he is. Certainly he was thrown on his own after his father's fortune disappeared. And he was twice as helpless when his father lost his reason.
Well, then the pearls may still be buried somewhere down here in the City of the Dead?
You're getting ahead of the story, Miss Carroll. Well, it was sometime during this period that old man Beverly made out those elaborate papers giving the pearls to you. He was obsessed with the idea that the pearls were buried in Ernie Morton's grave. That's the excuse for the papers. You see, Cartwright didn't know what the letter contained. They just filed it away to give to you on your 20th birthday as ordered.
Oh.
Now then, Doc Tuner didn't quite tell the truth when he said all his patients were buried in the City of the Dead.
Told all that was necessary.
Well, perhaps for general knowledge, yes, Doc. But as a matter of fact, he had one patient left. It was Theodore Beverly.
Oh, my grandfather. You were his doctor.
One of my best friends before he lost his mind, Miss Carroll.
Now then, for the next 3 or 4 years after the fire, Theodore Beverly and Robert used to make trips down here to the City of the Dead to dig around for the pearls. It wasn't only the old man who was becoming obsessed with the idea that the pearls were still in the cemetery. Robert grew more and more peculiar. At first, the mayor here, who knew them both well, too, tried to curb them, but it was useless.
Yeah, we'd have had to lock them up.
Yes. It soon became apparent that either they'd have to be allowed the run of the cemetery or else they'd have to be locked up in an asylum.
Oh.
Doc and Dad here talked it over quite a long time. To put them away would have meant a tremendous scandal. So finally, after much thought, Dad built a little cabin back there in the woods and moved both of them in.
Say, look here, Captain Friday. You're not going to tell us one of them was masquerading as Lammy Fink.
Exactly what I'm saying. Robert Beverly and Lammy Fink are one and the same person.
Yeah, but if you knew...
I didn't know it, Parker, until I got on this case. I grew up as a kid down here thinking that Lammy Fink was no one else but Lammy Fink, an addle-pated gravedigger, and that the old man who lived with him was his crazy father, Old Fink.
So Mother's suspicions were right. Grandfather wasn't drowned.
No, not drowned. They just faded out of the world they'd always lived in and became mere shadows in the City of the Dead. Their obsession concerning the pearls took a peculiar form. They set up a sort of guardianship over the City of the Dead. They watched everyone who approached the cemetery like hawks. Everyone who came down here, they believed, were here to dig for their pearls.
Yeah, never hurt no one. Just watched them until they left.
That's right. Well, it got so they didn't do much digging themselves. The old man would grow uneasy about once a month and go out and dig like fury for a few hours. Dad here got so he could tell when a spell was coming on. After old man Beverly had worn himself out and had left, Dad would go down and fill up the hole and replace the turf.
So that's how all those graves have been refilled so mysteriously. Remember, Captain, I told you the place where Phil and I had dug had been covered up. And the grave was refilled after we opened Ernie Morton's grave and found Bert Arnold.
Yes, Dad was responsible for all that. Well, now, that brings us down to the night that the phantom bell started ringing and old Clawfoot put in his appearance, and you, Miss Carroll, and Parker here were captured.
Yes. Well, who was old Clawfoot, Captain Friday?
Ah, just a minute. At least 2 days before you and Parker came to the City of the Dead, Dad here discovered that the cemetery was receiving night marauders other than Robert or old man Beverly. He called Dr. Tuner down the second day, and things had just about reached some sort of a mysterious climax when you two kids walked onto the scene. Dad and Doc naturally thought they'd finally caught the guilty parties, and they locked you up. They didn't call the police because they feared giving away the Beverly secret, which they dreaded doing after all these years.
So they just locked us up.
That's it. But they were curious about this phantom bell. They went down to the old church and found that new rope hanging from the ceiling. As you know, Dad pulled the rope thinking it would ring the bell, and he was creased by a bullet.
Yes. Well, who did that?
That was a booby trap. That rope wasn't fastened to a bell. It was fastened to the trigger of a revolver on the opposite side of the room. A thread fastened to the rope ran across the ceiling and down the opposite wall to the gun, which was pointed directly at the rope. Anyone pulling the rope would be in a direct line with the bullet.
But who would rig up a trap like that?
That's what took me the longest to figure out. You see, it wasn't the sort of thing a person of old Clawfoot's type would do. This was underworld stuff. Somebody was trying to bump somebody off. I began to check up on Bert Arnold's recent friends, discovered that he'd hired 3 men to work with him on some kind of a hidden treasure hunt. He didn't know it, but they were some of the Morelli mob, bad boys to tangle with. The moment he mentioned $500,000 in buried treasure, they were with him all the way. Well, the police in San Francisco picked up 2 of these fellows. That's where I got this information.
Bert Arnold wasn't bad, Captain Friday. I know he wasn't.
I know that. He just picked the wrong men to work with him.
Well, but where did Bert find out about the pearls?
Well, that's where this chap from Cartwright's office comes in. The phantom bell ringer. He opened your letter, got the information about the pearls, sealed up the letters again, and then took his information to Bert Arnold.
Then that's the man we found bound and gagged in the old church?
That's it. He sold his information to young Arnold for $1,000. But he evidently didn't know what square shooting was. As soon as he got the $1,000, he organized his own searching party and came down here to hunt for the pearls himself.
Seems funny he gave Bert the information.
Yeah, it does seem funny, Doc. On the other hand, his game was to give out stolen information. Probably the idea of hunting for the pearls himself was an afterthought. Anyway, Bert and his 3 friends came down to the City of the Dead, and right after them came, what was his name? Rogers and his men. Neither party could locate Ernie Morton's grave the first night. Eventually, they clashed. And Bert Arnold and his men caught this Rogers fellow, but his men got away. They tied him up in the basement of the church, intending to leave him there until they found the pearls.
Real gang stuff.
And that's not the half of it. Here, throw another stick of wood on the fire, and we'll get to the second night. That's when murder really came to the City of the Dead.
Slowly the skein of intrigue and desperate action is beginning to unwind. When Jimmy and Phyllis came down to dig in the grave of Ernie Morton, they set into motion a train of events which shook the whole graveyard. Death was breathing down their very necks. But wait.
The second night, Bert's gang had no better luck in looking for the Morton grave. But the third night brought you 2 kids down here. You went directly to the grave. How did you find it?
Well, there's a map in the City of the Dead with all the plots named on it in the recorder's office in the City Hall up in San Francisco. We found it on that before we came down.
You don't say. Well, you're not so dumb. Oh, now to get back to the gun trap in the church. Bert's men were using the church for a hangout in the daytime, doing their searching at night. One evening, while Bert and his men were out, Rogers' men slipped into the back room and rigged up the booby trap for revenge, hoping that one of the other gang would be shot. Evidently, however, Doc Tuner and Dad were the first to run across it.
Yeah, just my kind of luck.
What a horrible, cowardly thing to do.
Well, now to get back to the night you came down. You went to Ernie Morton's grave and began to dig. It wasn't any time until Bert and his men heard you and crept up to see who it was. Bert recognized you in the moonlight, Miss Carroll, and kept his men back.
You see, Jimmy? I knew someone was watching.
Yeah.
But they weren't the only ones watching.
Really? Who else?
There were 2 other groups.
2?
Yes. There were the men of Rogers' gang, and back watching you and the Rogers gang were Old Man Beverly and Robert.
Well, now, if that wasn't a setup.
Finally, Miss Carroll, you became frightened, and you made Parker quit digging before he'd really had a chance to get deep enough to find anything.
I couldn't stand it any longer.
The minute you 2 left, Bert and his men sneaked up, saw that it was Ernie Morton's grave you were digging in, and took up the work where you 2 left off. You see, they saw that you hadn't found the pearls.
Oh, I'm glad we didn't find them now. Just think what might have happened.
Well, the Rogers gang waited until you were out of hearing, and then they jumped Bert and his men, and in the fight, Bert was strangled and his men driven off.
Oh.
Then they, in turn, took up the job of digging.
Then the Rogers gang got the pearls after all?
Now, wait a minute. After they dug to their satisfaction, they threw Bert's body in the grave and partly covered it up. Later, Dad came along and saw the half-opened grave, and thinking that old man Beverly had been up to his tricks again, filled it in, not knowing that he was helping to cover up a murder.
But what about the sobbing we heard on the road? And who stole Jimmy's car?
The car was stolen by Bert's 3 friends. They wanted to make a quick getaway after Bert was killed. You thought there were only 2, but the third one got into the car further down the road.
And what about the person we heard sobbing?
That was Robert, or Lammy Fink, whichever you wish to call him.
But where was old man Beverly?
In Lammy's arms.
In his arms?
Yes. The old man's terror at seeing a man murdered was so great that it killed him. Lammy, or Robert, grabbed his father's body up in his arms and fled sobbing through the tombstones and down the road. That's who you 2 youngsters hurt.
Yeah, but look here, Captain. I thought you told me it was Lammy Fink who was scared to death.
I thought it was at first. You see, I hadn't seen either Lammy or his father for 10 years or more. Besides, they only had a few moments to examine the 3 bodies down in the cellar of Lammy's cabin before the place was set on fire. Light was bad, and added to that, Lammy and the old man always did look a great deal alike.
Yeah, but Dr. Tuner and the mayor should have recognized the old man.
Well, they would have, except that they had even less time to look over the bodies than I had.
I thought Lammy's face looked awfully old, but the captain said it was Lammy, and I never thought to check up.
The light was so bad I didn't even get a good look at his face.
So my grandfather has just died. It seems so strange. I can't realize it. You see, I've thought of him as dead for more than 10 years.
But that means Lammy Fink isn't dead.
Yes, Parker. That means Lammy Fink isn't dead.
Well, where is he then?
In custody.
You mean Lammy Fink is in jail?
Robert Beverly, alias Lammy Fink, is under observation. But we'll get to that presently. The next question in line is who burned Lammy's cabin?
Yeah, I'd like to know about that myself.
Well, it was one of Bert's gang, Dad. They made their getaway in Parker's car, but they'd left so many clues behind them that it was necessary for them to return and sort of clean up. I got this from one of the men we caught. According to him, they returned the next night after Bert was killed and saw us dig up Bert's body. We left him at the grave while I went after a stretcher, and you, Dad, and Doc here, dashed off after old Clawfoot. Parker was still out from that clip I gave him on the jaw. They sneaked in and got the body. Parker woke up just in time to see someone carrying the body away in the fog.
But why'd they bother about the body?
Because they knew that as long as we didn't know who was murdered, we wouldn't be able to get a line on their gang. That likewise was the reason for the burning of the cabin. Now, the next incident was the murder of the stranger who tried to saw his way into Parker's room.
The man we saw Clawfoot murder?
Yes, that was another member of Bert's gang. Remember, I was clipped on the head, and his body also stolen for the same reason that Bert's was stolen. To hide the identity of those still remaining alive.
Yeah, but how did the bodies get in the cellar of Lammy's cabin?
Well, according to the men we have in custody, they put the bodies in the cabin thinking it was a deserted shack. Lammy must have come along and lugged them down into the basement and arranged them alongside the body of old man Beverly. Lammy, by this time, was completely out of his head.
Say, Captain Friday, just when did you capture Lammy Fink?
Later.
Oh.
But why did Clawfoot kill him?
To protect you and Miss Carroll.
To protect... Say, who is Clawfoot anyway?
Oh, Jimmy, don't you know by this time? It was Lammy Fink, of course.
Yes, Lammy Fink. Or if you prefer, your Uncle Robert, Miss Carroll.
Oh, well, then he must have known me.
Yes, he knew you all right. That was why he patrolled about the house. That's why he brought you the Black Pearl.
The Black Pearl? Clawfoot or Lammy Fink brought me that?
Yeah. The night he broke into the cottage. He put it under your pillow when you fainted. He threw the knife through the window that stabbed you, too, Miss Carroll.
He did? Well, but why if he was protecting me?
He didn't mean to hit you. That was an accident. By the way, where's that knife?
What? Well, but tell me, Captain Friday, why did he throw it?
Well, where's the knife? I'll show you.
Well,
Give it to him, Phyllis.
Well,
Well, what's it doing there in bed with you?
I gave it to her for protection when I had to leave her.
Oh, you did you? Thought I was going to murder her, I suppose.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor Friday. Honest, I am. I shouldn't have suspected you, but... Well, I had to do everything I could to protect Phil.
I think I understand, boy. Forget it.
Well, look here at the knife. See here how the handle screws off the blade?
Oh, what's inside?
There.
The Black Pearl.
Not the Black Pearl, Miss Carroll. A Black Pearl.
But I don't understand.
Well, it's simple. Old man Beverly kept 2 of the pearls out of the collection for some unaccountable reason. And the old man died, Lammy fell heir to them, and he was trying to give them to you. He was highly unsuccessful both times he tried. The first time he almost stabbed you to death. The second time he nearly frightened you into fits.
Say, I reckon while we're on the subject of that visit, I want to know how the mayor here got out of that bedroom when he was locked in.
Oh, that?
Yeah, that.
Well, the mayor had slipped out of the house hours before. I didn't know where he was or what he was up to, but I didn't want the rest of you to know he was out and increase your suspicion. So I pretended he was asleep, and I locked the door.
And I'll be dead, Burns.
So it was you, Mayor, who was digging in Ernie Morton's grave at the end of the trail of bones?
No, Parker, Dad wasn't digging in the grave. He was just filling up the grave that Robert Beverly, alias Lammy Fink, alias Clawfoot, had opened. He was getting battier and battier. The opening of the cottage door and dropping that skeleton inside was one instance. The scattering of his bones through the city of the dead was another. And finally, he gathered them up again in a sack and left them on the porch.
But I want to know what became of you, Captain Friday, while I was lying behind that tombstone.
Well, you have got an explanation coming. I saw it was Dad in the grave. I didn't want you to see him. So I made you lie flat, and then I sneaked out and took him away. After you'd gone back to the cottage, Dad finished filling up the grave and then returned to the cottage.
So that's how it was. And about that gold pencil you had, Mayor.
Go ahead and explain it, son.
Well, when I caught Dad in the grave, I had him in a tight place. So I made him sit down and write out the whole story, most of the story I've told you. He'd been trying to cover up for the Beverleys, but I made him give me the lowdown then and there. Anyway, he borrowed my gold pencil and then stuck it in his pocket. That's how that happened. I hear you tried to lie out of it, got caught, Dad.
Yeah.
Doesn't pay to lie if you aren't good at it. Now then.
But who jerked the mayor in my bedroom and robbed him of the other black pearl?
Here, just a minute. Yeah, here it is. Here's your other black pearl.
Then it was you in there.
Yes, I needed that pearl. But I didn't choke Dad to get it, and I didn't take it away from him. He gave it to me.
Well, I had to tell some story. You didn't want him to know the truth.
That's right. You see, folks, I wasn't getting anywhere working in the open, so I decided to disappear and keep my eyes on things from cover. Didn't take long to get to the bottom of things that way.
Was it you that kidnapped Clawfoot out in front?
Yes. Did you see that?
No, partly. It was still so dark we couldn't see who it was.
It was I.
Say, what made him make those horrible noises? Why didn't he talk?
I rushed into the city and an examination was made. His throat became paralyzed, evidently, the night he saw Bert Arnold murdered. It was a condition paralleling his mental state. All he could do was wail.
Oh. Well, but why did he wear that funny robe? And what about his claw feet?
Oh, yes, his claw feet. Haven't you ever seen these Indian moccasins made out of the foot skins of animals with the claws left in to make them ornamental?
By gum, of course.
Oh, then his feet weren't clawed at all.
No. Lammy had a pair of those moccasins. He lost all of his clothes. When the cabin was burned, he didn't even have a coat. It was awfully cool. Dad had some sheets out on the line airing, and Lammy stole one of them to wrap himself in.
Oh, the poor thing was just trying to keep warm.
That's all. He wasn't the least bit interested in being ghostly.
Well, isn't that the limit?
About explains everything, too, I guess.
No, there'll be points coming up from now on, but that covers the most important phases of the case.
Yeah, but look here. You haven't even touched on the most important thing of all.
Yeah?
Yes. What's become of Theodore Beverly's collection of black pearls?
Oh, the black pearls. Well, my dear Parker, the pearls are waiting for Miss Carroll up in a strongbox in the Civic Center National Bank, where they have been ever since the fire of 1906.
What's that? You mean to say those pearls never were buried down here in the City of the Dead?
Yes, they were. When the fire started, the pearls were buried here. But after it had been checked, old man Beverly came down here alone, dug them up, and deposited them in the bank. Right after that, he lost his memory. He remembered burying them originally in the City of the Dead, but he forgot all about coming back here for them and putting them in the bank.
You don't say. Criminy, how did you find that out?
Well, at dawn this morning, I rushed Lammy to the city, and the whole story came out in the first editions of the paper. About me having 2 of the collection of the Beverly pearls and all that. Well, the bank saw the story and called me. They had the rest of the pearls. They had an order to deliver the pearls to Miss Carroll on her 20th birthday.
They did? Well, why didn't they do it then?
Because the old man had made a mistake of a month in her age. The bank would have automatically delivered the pearls to you, Miss Carroll, next month.
You mean to say that I'm worth $500,000?
Exactly that.
Oh, golly. Well, Jimmy, now you've just got to marry me.
Hey.
Yes, you do. A girl with that much money needs protection.
Well, if you insist.
Oh, darling. And you're all invited to the wedding.
Yeah, and we'll be there. Don't you think we won't?
And you, Captain Friday?
Well, I don't know. I've got some business that's going to take me out of town if I get back.
What kind of business, son?
Military intelligence, Dad. The government's put a finger on Skip Turner and me to do a job for them up off the coast of Canada.
Who's Skip Turner?
One of my operatives in my agency.
Off the coast of Canada? That sounds like smugglers.
No, I can't talk about it, but I can guarantee you there's liable to be plenty of death and destruction before we get through. There's some pretty lonely, wide-open spaces up in that country. And not all the animals go around on 4 legs.
Smugglers, death and destruction, a country where all the animals don't go around on 4 legs. Next week you will find Captain Friday and his sidekick, Skip Turner, fighting for their lives and for a very beautiful young woman when Adventures by Morse brings you the first episode of A Coffin for the Lady, a new Carlton E. Morse production.
From the Bell Telephone Hour.
Good evening. I'm Donald Voorhees. Our featured performer tonight is the famous English pianist Clifford Curzon. Since we've a great deal of music for you tonight, let's get right to it, beginning with the presto and finale from Schubert's Wanderer Fantasy in the Liszt transcription for piano and orchestra. The Bell Telephone Orchestra plays two authentic dances from Erno Dochnagny's Ruralia Ungarica. be back with our guest, Clifford Curzon, and more encores from the Bell Telephone Hour after this message.
Ever talked with someone who has used telephone service in another country? If so, you know why most people come away with a new appreciation of the quality of telephone service in the United States. One of the reasons is that Western Electric is part of the nationwide communications network known as the Bell System. Western Electric. That's the name you'll find in the cradle of your telephone. Western made 7.5 million telephones alone last year. When Bell Laboratories comes up with something new in communications, their engineers work hand in glove with Western Electric to see that it's made and supplied to local Bell telephone companies at the lowest possible cost. This is one of the reasons the cost of telephone service has not increased as fast as that of most other services through the years. Western Electric, a name to remember when you enjoy reliable, low-cost, nationwide telephone service.
Just about every pianist in the world plays the Grieg Concerto, but Clifford Curzon gives it a unique sense of structure. As we listen to the first movement, pay particular attention to the cadenza with its broad, sweeping lines. wonderful performance. Clifford Curzon was the soloist in the first movement of Grieg's Piano Concerto in A minor. I'll be back after this word from your telephone company.
Madame Gabriella Tucci, Metropolitan Opera star.
You have a telephone everywhere, even in small place. It is most unusual, you know. And I love your, how you call it, push button, your touch tone telephone. They are so delightful, so musical. I am very affectionate to the telephone.
We too have affection for our telephones, Madame Tucci. But it's our telephone network that gives us the most extraordinary communication system in the world. It can take your call and instantly switch it to any of 102 million other telephone devices. On our nationwide network, anything goes. People talk, computer talk, pictures and drawings, anything. Instantly, anytime, anywhere.
Your anywhere, anything, anytime network. AT&T.
This is Donald Gordon. I hope you enjoyed the superb artistry of Clifford Curzon tonight, and that you'll join me again next week at this same time when a salute to one of America's favorite singers, Nelson Eddy, highlights our encores from the Bell Telephone Hour.
is the NBC Radio Network.
As always, thank you for joining us Sunday night with Old Time Radio. Next week, we plan to have our Christmas broadcast, so we hope that you'll join us. Until then, sleep tight. This is a production of Lobato Studios, Sao Paulo, Brazil.